Thanks for joining us on the Free Will Podcast. Cameron here, as always, with Tim. Today we have Shino Van Hoos. She is a Invicta fighter. Invicta is the largest female MMA organization, and they feed a lot of their highest level people to the UFC. They are a big deal, especially in women's MMA, so we're pumped that she's here. She brought with her UFC fighter Vince Morales, checking in with him, seeing where he's at since he's entered the UFC, so we had an awesome time with those guys. What'd you think, Tim?
It's pretty awesome. I kind of dipped out for a tiny bit to grab a couple snack foods, but for the most part, I think you'll hear my opinion on everything, which is always positive. I think both these fighters are at the prime of their careers, and I'm excited to see where they go.
Really got an interesting perspective on what it's like to be a female in the MMA game.
100%. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Very cool. Ever evolving sport. We definitely get an internal viewpoint from that perspective. So
for sure.
Does that make sense?
We had a good time. So stick around. Thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you. Peace out.
Wait, did you want to give a shout out to anybody?
Oh,
Tim?
yeah, shout outs. I don't have any shout outs.
Do you guys have any shout outs?
Do you have any shout outs?
I got to give a shout out to Baron over at Feed My Fit.
Yeah, he's been helping us out.
He's been helping out so much, and that's just a giant sponsor. And Caesar over at Oxbow Commons, keeping me cleaned up. That's why I look pretty.
For sure.
Sure. And Jesse Brock and all you guys at SBG. I gotta bring it up again because I'm super grateful that I'm even allowed to go over there and get and work with all you guys. So it's awesome.
So shout out to who feeds you, cuts your hair, makes you look fresh, and gets you fighting.
And beats me up a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.
Shut up and sit down.
Awesome. We're here with Shino Van Hoos and Vince Morales, current UFC fighter, and Shino's Invicta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Tell me about Invicta.
Invicta FC is the biggest women's organization in the world. You can watch it on UFC Fight Pass. Pretty much sort of owned by the UFC, I think.
Sort of
owned by the UFC,
Some sort of partnership or something?
I think so. I don't...
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are they based out of?
Kansas City.
Missouri. I
Missouri.
thought they were like foreign or something.
No. Invicta. The name Invicta kind of sounds foreign.
It does,
but
yeah.
But no, they're Kansas City.
I'll be darned. Oh, that's cool. And how long have they been going?
Actually, I've been a pro before Invicta was even a promotion.
Wow.
So I think, let's see, I went pro at 16. I think they were like maybe a year or two, like 2011, like right after I turned 16.
It seems like it's been a while.
Yeah. I think 2011, like end of 2011, beginning of 2012 was when they became a thing, and I went pro in 2011. So
sounds about right. I know they've been a big promotion for a long time. Like I said, it's all women's.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're the feeder for the UFC basically, and sometimes Bellator, and they've been a big staple in the MMA scene for a long time. So it seems like even longer than that.
Yeah.
It's surprising
it seems
that you
like
were pro
it, but
before that.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
That's
is
weird, huh? I've been around.
When was your first fight with them?
When was my first fight with them? That would be January 2016 was my first fight with them. So I was 20. Yeah.
So you're about 3 years in. And how many fights have you had with Invicta?
Only two right now. Yeah, so far only two. Just because after my first fight with Invicta was a loss, and I wanted to get a couple wins before I get back into Invicta, just because my record wasn't so hot after that. And then once I did get a couple wins, I went back with them, and then hurt myself. So,
and then got injured.
Yeah, and then hurt myself. So
had your first fight with Invicta. What happened in your first fight?
So that was against Amber Brown. She was like number 1 or 2 in the world at the time. Yeah, and I had just got done fighting for Front Street. That was when I fought for Front Street, and Vince was actually the main event for that fight with Cruz. He fought Cruz, and I was the co-main event. And then No, wait, was it that fight? No, I fought for Invicta before that,
Invicta before that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you had Amber Round before that. And
Yeah,
then you
that's
wanted
right.
to win.
Oh, yeah, because I had won a fight in Montana, and then they called me up and wanted me to fight their number 2 or number 1. And I was like, okay, let's go for it. Yeah, I was like, why not? You know,
Your
it was
first
like
fight with them.
yeah, and it was only 10 days notice too. So I was like, why not? Let's
what
go
champs
for
do.
it, right? Like, let's
Get
just
out
do
for
it.
that.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I have nothing to lose,
Absolutely.
and you know, so I went for it. Didn't go my way at all. That it was I actually lost in the first round by guillotine, which I kind of, when I look back, I know how to get out of guillotines. I didn't, like, the choke was in, but it wasn't. You know, it was
Probably
one of those
could've worked out
things.
of
Yeah, I
it,
think it
some
was just one of those
options.
things where I just kind of panicked at the you know, and I mean, first big stage, like really, really big stage.
Big
and,
organization,
yeah,
big
you know,
opponent,
yeah,
big opportunity.
exactly. And, you know, I was
Those are all
like,
factors.
definitely, there was no pressure, but at the same time, I felt a little bit of pressure in a sense where, like, if I win this, like, if I pull this off, this will be huge for me. Huge for me. So, but it didn't go my way, and I think I panicked when I got caught. And they did offer me a multi-fight deal, so I knew I was coming back. I knew that it wasn't my last fight in Invicta. I was only 20 years old.
Sure,
So
of course.
I knew it wasn't
It was
going to be the
early.
last, that they saw me. So I was like, you know what? I took that fight 10 days notice. It was against literally if she were to have beat me, she would have fought for the title. So, and she did fight for the title.
Basically
her next
number
fight.
one contender.
Yes, yeah. So I was like, hey, you know, I went for it, and that's okay. It just shows that I'm not afraid to fight, you know.
Of course.
Like, I'm not afraid of a fight either, so.
No matter who it is.
Yeah,
You can
no
be
matter
the
who
number
it
one
is, who
contender,
cares?
the biggest women's organization.
Like,
whatever.
what am I, that's what I'm here for, right?
Totally,
To fight
totally.
the best and be the best. So.
Well, it's not like it was your first fight. You've been fighting for how long now?
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
like,
on
forever.
one stage or another, literally forever.
Oh, yeah, for
So-
sure. I've been training since I was a little girl, so it wasn't like anything. Taking competition isn't anything new, so
Sure.
yeah.
So when you get faced with a challenge like that on the biggest women organization and a number one contender, and it's 10 days notice, how do you process that? Because you're not getting a full fight camp, you're not really matched up with somebody that like you're supposed to beat.
It was
or-
almost a feeder fight for
right.
her.
You're
yeah.
kind of being fed. I mean, it's almost like they're saying, "Hey, we just need you to come in and lose.
Yeah.
Do you mind?" You know, it's a
Yeah.
good opportunity for you.
Yeah.
How do you process that? Because it's
So,
not quite the same as here's a person we think it'd be a good matchup. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. It was a weird. I remember when I got the call. I got the call from Jesse and Jesse Brock, and he was like, "Hey, big news! We have Invicta called, and they want you to fight Amber Brown." And he was like, I know you want to fight for Invicta, but it's a big fight, so just take the day to think about it, talk to whoever you need to talk to about it." And I was actually at work at the time when I worked at Muay Thai. So I went home, I told my parents about it, and they were freaking out, you
Of
know,
courch,
but they were
of
like,
course.
"Oh, take it, you
Huge
know, like,
opportunity.
yeah,
You
just
can't
take
pass
it."
the word.
Parents
Yeah,
never help.
parents are the worst. They're like, "Just take it."
Especially
but-
your parents.
Yeah, especially my parents, right? So then I was like, okay, well, I knew that my parents were going to want me to take that fight, you know. So I talked to Vita about it, Vita Ortega, and she was actually the one who said, if this fight doesn't feel right to you, then don't take it. If you know, if obviously if it doesn't feel right in your gut, but also this is an opportunity that doesn't always come, and especially to a lot of other people,
True,
you know, to
true.
a lot of other 20-year-olds, right? That opportunity doesn't come every day. And she was like, if you think you're going to get this opportunity again and you don't feel like right now is the right time, then don't take it. But if you think that, I mean, you're getting the opportunity kind of for a reason, right? I mean, yeah, it might be a feeder fight, but at the same time, they called you out of
They
all
want you
people.
there.
Yeah, out of all the atom weights in the world, they happen to call me to be the replacement. So I was like, she kind of talked me into doing. Well, and I already kind of felt like I wanted to do it.
Sure.
You know, of course, like
Sure.
it was an opportunity that
Well, they wanted you there. You wanted to be there.
yeah, and I wanted to be on that stage. So, and it was definitely like I was one of the first fighters in Combat Fitness or SBG Idaho to fight on UFC Fight Pass besides Jorgensen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool too,
Of course,
you know.
huge
So I
honor.
was like, I'm going to take this fight, and nothing bad is going to come from taking this fight, win or lose, right? So, I mean,
You really had
literally, I
nothing
can,
to lose.
literally, I had nothing to lose. All I gained is like all I gained was a learning lesson, you know, like. It definitely helped me learn that I need to channel my emotions a little bit better.
Fair
I
enough.
think that because I was young, I did think about what people were going to think about me.
Of
you
course,
know, like
which I mean is
if I
natural.
lose, you know, like, oh, if I lose, I'm not going to be the prodigy that everybody thinks I am, or, you know. So I think I did put a lot of pressure on myself when I didn't really need to.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of why I took how my mental process went. I was just kind of like, just go for it. You know, like
Absolutely.
you have nothing to lose. Go for it.
You got the heart of a warrior. Shino.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
So you end up coming short that fight, but the result is a multi-fight contract.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome. And then after that, you decided let's get a couple wins.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your next fight after that?
So my next fight after that was actually in Florida for a local show, which I actually lost split decision to a local, which, I mean, a loss is a loss.
Sure.
I can't complain about it, right? I should have done better, but
Once again, being brought in to lose.
yeah,
I mean, really.
yeah. But at the same time, I was like, I won that fight. I literally had this girl in a standing guillotine off her feet. Like
Jeez.
against the cage off her feet. And I up-kicked her like 5 times when I was, you know, like I had her in triangles and arm bars. Granted, she got away, but she didn't do anything,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
So
You were the one pushing
I
the
was
action.
like, I don't know how I lost that fight.
You got
And
hometown.
yeah, so I
I hate to say it.
Yeah, I
You
did.
got hometown.
I had no idea how I lost that fight. And even the crowd was kind of cheering, like they booed when they announced the winner.
They knew.
They booed.
They knew.
And she was the local, so I kind of knew I had won. But after that fight was, I mean, after the Invicta loss, I was definitely kind of thinking like, okay, I need to channel my emotions and stuff. But after that fight, I was like, I just need to go out there and freaking win. You know, like I have to stop thinking about what ifs and, you
Sure.
know, like all these things.
Get out of your head a little bit.
I was way too in my head, like early in my career. And I think that's why I have the losses I have. I just put too much pressure on myself. But after that, I was like grinding and working on my mental health, I guess you
Sure.
could say, like in a sense. And then French Street came along at the end of 2016, and yeah,
Who'd you fight there?
Sarah Lagerstrom,
Okay.
Lagerstrom or something like that. I don't really know her name. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't really know her, but so that was a TKO win in the
Nice.
second round. Yeah, which is the one that you fought on. Yeah,
That's the one.
What'd you finish her with?
ground and pound.
Yeah, ground and
Yeah, ground and pound. Which I think I was really sick, but I just wanted to win so bad. I was like, I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of these, like, you know, split decision losses, whatever, like being brought in to lose and
Sure.
stuff like that. Like, this is my hometown. This is my turf. This is supposed to be my night, you know, and nobody's going to take that from me. And I think in a sense I got a little... I fought with a little anger.
Good.
Yeah, in that fight, a little, just a little bit. I don't usually fight with anger, but I think in that one I kind of did a little bit, just because I felt like, especially in the Florida fight, I feel like they took that away from me, you know. And I was, and because I lost that Florida fight, my record was then 4-5. So I had a losing record after that fight, and I was like, no, I am not taking that. I got so mad. I was so mad, but it kind of helped me get back on my feet. I think.
So how was your headspace different in the Front Street fight than the two before that?
I was a lot more confident. I was just confident, calm, and I don't know if being at home helped. I'm never at home for a fight. I'm always the outside, or, you know, the out of town fighter.
Sure.
So it was a little different being at home, but at the same time, I was kind of on my own schedule because I was at home.
That's good.
So I think I was more comfortable. I didn't it didn't really feel like I was about to fight.
Sure, everything was more
weigh-ins.
familiar, comfortable.
Yeah. I got to sleep in my own bed and stuff like that. So I think just being more comfortable and being a little more confident in myself, and I knew I had put in the work already, and I was just ready to get my hand raised.
And you did.
Yeah, and I did.
And you
yeah.
did.
I was like, that's right. That's my that's my W.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it, I always ask people this, is it worse to lose by the guillotine and just to have it be a loss, or by a split decision? Knowing that you're that close.
For me personally, I feel like if I'm going to lose, I don't know.
Or is it just a loss is a loss?
A loss is a loss, right? Like, it never feels good, right?
Right.
But I feel like with the split, it could have gone either way. And I feel like with the split decision, we both wanted it, right? We both wanted it, but she just had a little more heart that night. Or sometimes the judges were just bad, and I should have just done a little bit better, right? So I think a split decision loss is a little more unsettling than when I lose, like, first round guillotine. I just need to work on, work on things. Right?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I need to work on it. I got caught. That's my fault. But with the split decision loss, it was just more unsettling and like, no, that was mine.
I did everything right.
Like, that was my win. So I think it was. I don't like split decision. I just don't like losing in general.
Of course. So after that fight, you win at Front Street, and was it after that you went back to Invicta?
Yeah, after that I was like, I called up my manager and I said, hey, I want to be back in Invicta, and I want someone who's going to challenge me. So my manager called Shannon Knapp, who's the president of Invicta, told them that I was ready for it. And they brought in 3-0 at the time, Elise Anderson, from Michigan. I think she was from Michigan. Yeah, I think she's from Michigan. Tough girl. She was actually 9-0 total. 9-0 total. She's never lost as an amateur. And she was 3-0 as a pro.
Was that her Invicta debut?
That was her Invicta debut, and she actually used to fight at 115 too.
Oh wow! So she's bigger.
She was a little bit bigger, yeah. So and she was a little taller too. So I knew she was going to be strong, and I knew she was going to be tough because she's never seen a loss before. So I was a little bit nervous about it, but I was like, no, if I'm gonna prove myself to Invicta or to anybody, and myself even, I have to take that fight.
You don't want to feed her fight.
Oh,
you
no,
want them to
no,
give you some
I didn't want.
tomato
No,
can.
I didn't want to feed her fight. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And she was my age. She was 22 at the time, and I was 22. So, and I've always fought older women. You know, I've always fought like
It's
late
because
20s.
you went pro at 16.
Yeah. You're right. I've always fought like women in their late 20s, early 30s, moms, fighting moms is scary.
They got that like tiger mom mentality.
Yeah. So I was, I thought that it was a good fight for me. I knew that I was way more of a veteran than she was. I knew that not because she was my age, but I don't know. I just felt like it was a good fight.
Sure.
And,
good matchup.
Yeah, good matchup.
It was a great fight too.
Yeah, and that had to go. I took it away.
Nice.
I took it away. So
Nice. So undefeated fighter, a little bit bigger. That's a pretty good challenge for you.
Yeah, it was. I think it gave
me
a lot of confidence too. I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially after the previous two fights, and then you have these two dominant fights.
Yeah.
How'd you win?
It was a split decision.
Ooh.
Split decision. But Jesse was pretty mad about it.
Because it was pretty clear.
I mean, if you're watching it and you know fighting, like obviously that girl got outfought and was beat up.
They don't get judges that know fighting. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, the only reason why I could understand why it was a split decision was because my back was on the mat. She was in my guard. In the second round, she was in my guard like the whole time. But in my guard, all she did was this.
Right.
She just kind of put her head in my stomach and just kind of held me there. So, and I know I'm good at
run out the time.
Yeah, and I know that I'm good at jiu-jitsu. I was trying to go for arm bars and stuff, but sometimes you have like a good jiu-jitsu player, and sometimes it's not always that easy to get what you want, right, in
Sure.
jiu-jitsu. So I was trying for a lot of things, and but it just didn't work. So I was kind of worried about that, just
Sure.
being on my back, because a lot of judges don't like that. And actually, the commentator said that too. They were curious to see how the judges were seeing the fight,
Sure.
just because I was fighting off my back, and that's kind of how I lost in the Florida fight. I was on my back, even though I was going for triangles and arm bars. So I was a little bit nervous about it, but ultimately, I knew I was working more.
Of course. And like with that jiu-jitsu background, you're a purple belt in jiu-jitsu and you've been doing it for a long time. With that jiu-jitsu background, you know when you're good on the ground.
Yeah.
Or you know when you're good on your back. You know when you're comfortable on your back. Where like, I feel like judges and of course fans, they're getting a lot better about it. But at least years ago, they would score so heavily for top position because they knew wrestling. And so even if they didn't know about wrestling, they knew that the person on top was winning. They don't know jiu-jitsu unless there's like a triangle suddenly or an armbar, and they're like, oh, they were setting that up. But everything up until that, they don't know that I'm on my back and I'm actually in control. I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm working for
exactly.
something different here. They're not advancing position. They're not hitting me. They're not nothing. And so it's frustrating to see that there's sort of that cult of personality where they just, all they understand is that that person's on top. It's kind of like I always have this conversation about cage control, and they always say like, oh, well, that person has cage control because they're on the inside. Not necessarily. You're just the guy on the inside.
Yeah.
Unless you're like cutting angles and putting them up against the fence.
Yeah.
That's not it. But judges sometimes don't see that. So as a fighter, that's got to be really frustrating.
Yeah, it is frustrating. So because I've lost like that before, I was a little bit nervous about it. And actually, after
Don't want to do this again.
Yeah, and actually after the fight, when Michael and Vita were cornering me for that fight, and when I went back to when they got in the cage and I went over to them, I was like, did I do enough? I asked them that. I was like, did I do enough? And Michael was like, you did enough. And I was like, I thought I did enough last time, but that didn't work. So I was nervous about it a little bit. I was kind of thinking about it. But if you notice, when they did call my name, I was kind of like, because I was like, I knew I won that fight. I hurt her more, So
Sure.
Yeah.
So what is that your last fight?
That was my last fight.
Okay. And that was when?
2017.
2017. It's 2019.
Cameron, I know.
So what's with the layoff?
Oh, I tore my ACL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Well, the first initial layoff, I had a year off. Just because I went back, I was going to school and just kind of had to catch up on my schoolwork and stuff like that. I was pretty behind.
Good thing to focus on.
Yeah, so I took a year to focus on all of that. And then I had signed a contract to fight in July of 2018 against another 3-0 athlete, what's her name? Alicia Zapatea. Yeah. Alicia Zapatea. Yeah. So I took that fight, and the day I signed my contract, I popped my knee.
Ouch, what happened?
I was sparring, and I was killing it, too. I was killing it in sparring. I had done 7 rounds, and Jesse wanted me to do one more round in the cage and then call it good. So I went in there, and 30 seconds into that last round, my knee just gave out on itself. It just popped, and I just
like
heard
a takedown or something.
Yeah, so I was going with my teammate David, and he went for a takedown, and I was trying to stop the takedown.
Sure.
Right. So my feet were stretched out. I was very stretched out, and I think on the way down he didn't lift me high enough or something, and my knee kind of collapsed on itself, I think, and I just heard a pop. And then, so I was like, David, I need you to get off. And then after a little bit, after I rested a little bit, I thought I was okay. But once I took a step, it just kind of...
You knew?
Yeah, it was out. And then, but the next day when we went to the hospital, the doctors said that I probably just strained something, just rested a little bit, and you should be fine, because I was walking. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so I was still training for the fight. They said that they, you should be fine to train and fight still and everything. So I was like, okay, cool, perfect, that's all I needed to know. Right.
And that was a month out at the time, right?
And that was we were
month and a half.
Yeah, because I
Fight
signed the
is July,
contract like
and
May
it was, like,
30th
early
or something.
June.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like the last day of May.
Right.
Yeah. And then like a month and a half out, and then so I rested, but I was still training, and then I was still sparring a little bit, you know, and then and it felt like it was getting better. I thought I was getting better, but then in practice it popped again. But it popped like loud this time. So I was like, there's something wrong with it. Because it kind of kept buckling, but it was nothing bad, you know?
Sure,
like it would buckle, and then I'd kind of walk it off, and I'd be fine.
And you knew that there was something going on.
But it was nothing like I couldn't fight. So then when it popped again, I was like, no, there's something wrong. So we went to the doctor, and they were like, yeah, let's just take an MRI just to be safe. And then when I took an MRI, sure enough, my ACL was gone. It was like completely torn. And
did it tear the first pops, or
they
that
don't
time?
know. They don't know, because they were like, because even after I popped it again, I was still walking the next day. I was just walking around, right?
Yeah.
And then my doctor called, and he was like, yeah, your ACL's gone. But he was even surprised.
Yeah, he called like past business hours. 'Cause
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, we just got this in. Not really supposed to call right now, but your ACL's gone, basically.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
But I'm walking.
Yeah, and I was like, but I'm walking.
I think you had him on speaker too. Or
Yeah,
something,
because
and
I had him on speaker because
I was right there, and I remember that, and like, I just remember him saying that, and my heart dropped. I was like,
yeah, mine too. I was like, no
remember that
way.
feeling.
And then I was like, are you sure? I remember saying that. I was like,
I know
are
you're
you
a
sure?
doctor,
Yeah. I was like,
but-
are you sure? Because I feel okay. And he was like, no, it's gone. So I don't think you should fight. But you hear of a lot of athletes like fighting without an ACL and
Totally.
stuff a lot,
Totally.
right?
Yeah,
So
they'll go years without getting
Yeah,
repaired.
so I was like, well, I can still fight, right? I'm
Right,
fine. I'll be
right.
fine. And we were like 2 or 3 weeks out at this point, like 2 or 3 weeks out.
yeah,
at
we
this
had already
point.
dealt with it for like 3 weeks.
Yeah. So when I called Jesse, he was like, "Oh no, yeah."
I'm
He
yeah,
was
that's
like,
not happening.
he was actually more upset with himself that he even let me keep training after the first initial
Right.
pop, because I was the one that said, no, it's fine, it should be fine, I should just rest it, so
Made me feel terrible too, because I kept saying, I was like, no, it's just another test.
Yeah,
like,
you're
we're just
okay,
gonna have
you're
to-
okay.
Yeah,
it's,
like,
it's
you're
all about
okay.
mental fortitude and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, we can power through and like.
yeah, so but yeah, and then I was like, no, I should be fine, but Jesse was like, I'm not gonna let you fight,
Good.
like, I'm not gonna let you fight. And then
a
I
good
was like,
coach.
okay, yeah, I don't think I
Well,
should fight
And those
either.
fighters that like fight without an ACL, that's not a new injury. That's not like
Yeah,
a fresh thing.
That's true.
It's
yeah.
been the swelling's gone,
yeah.
everything's tight. Like
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
built up the
still-
supporting muscles and all that.
Right.
So, yeah,
It's
Yeah.
not 2 weeks ago. where
Yeah,
everything's
and especially,
inflamed
and I think what really kind of told Jesse, like, no, this isn't a good idea, was she was a wrestler. Yeah.
So she's gonna be shooting for those legs.
If she was
Yep.
a striker, I would have been like, Jesse, come on, I'll just stay on my feet, I'll bang
Sure,
with her, right?
sure.
But yeah, I think the fact that she was like an Olympic level wrestler
Right.
was kind of a no-go for Jesse, which I understand
Of
now, and I'm
course.
glad that, and I was like, you know what, which was sad. I had already not fought in like a year,
Mm-hmm.
so I really, really wanted to fight, and this would have been a great fight for me too.
Totally.
But I think I also had to tell myself, you're only 22. Well, I had just turned 23. I was like, you're only 23.
got
This isn't like
plenty
the
of
end of your
time.
career. Yeah, I was like, this
Plenty
is
of
not
time.
the end of your career,
Yep.
So just, if anything, it's a blessing in disguise, because now I took a lot of time off for school and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and now I can use this time to recover to, make myself stronger physically.
sure.
Because
Work
I'm
on some
already,
other things.
yeah, because I'm already a small atom weight. So
Sure.
yeah. So
You keep using this term atom weight that no one in the world is familiar with because it's not a weight class that's recognized like anywhere else. So what is atom weight 105 or 115?
105.
105.
Yeah, 115's the straw weights.
I
Okay.
think one has. I think they won one championship calls their 115ers atom weights though, right?
Really?
Do they?
Because I think they've announced Angela Lee as like an atom weight, but it's always shown she was 115.
That's
I
interesting.
thought she was a 105er.
Yeah, because they say atom weight, but I'm like 90% sure
okay.
that
That
they
makes
just.
sense.
They actually-
Ooh, that makes me kind of happy. She's good. Have you seen
Yeah,
Angela
she's
Lee
pretty
fight?
good.
She's
She's
good.
savage.
I'm
She's
like,
pretty
oh,
good.
thank God. She's not. I don't have to deal with her.
Who's the Invicta atom weight champ?
Right now, Jinyu Frey.
Okay.
Yeah, She's buff.
Is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big girl.
She's big.
What's her style?
Kind of everywhere. She seems solid.
She seems
Like
well-rounded
Sandy?
everywhere. Yeah, I think her husband is like her head coach, and he's pretty well-rounded. I forgot his name, but she's pretty well-rounded everywhere.
Yeah,
I would
she
say
fights everywhere.
Her jiu-jitsu, she might be best on her feet. Maybe I think on her feet she might be the best. But
What would be the game plan if you were fighting her?
if I was fighting her, I don't know. I would probably just go in there and kind of feel the air a little bit. See where.
Kind of see what was there.
Yeah, like see, because I know I'm
More
well-rounded.
credit than that. I think
Well,
you smoke her everywhere.
No, well, just because I know that I'm well-rounded everywhere as well.
Sure.
So wherever, I guess, my well-roundedness is the strongest
Sure,
with her,
sure.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
yeah, so I think if my striking is better than her striking, then
Just
I'd
keep it
probably
on the
just
feet.
try and stay on the feet. But I mean, if it went down to the ground,
You're
I mean,
comfortable.
yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
I know, we've grappled. Yeah,
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah, tell me about that. She's hurt my elbow multiple times.
Yeah, I'm sure. I always every time we go, I always end up like fighting off of my back, and you just put like a ton of pressure
Because
on me.
because I'm
Where's this
smaller.
top game come from?
Because I'm smaller, and I've always been the smaller person at the gym, right?
Right.
So one of my first jiu-jitsu coaches always told me, if you're the smaller fighter or the smaller competitor, you try and stay on top.
Nice.
Because you do not want to be underneath someone bigger than you.
Sure.
So in training, you're training with all these adult men, so you want to be on top. I was like, okay, got it.
So it's by design.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
nice.
little 14-year-old me was like, okay, you stay on top.
When did you start training at SBG Idaho?
When I was 18, so back in 2013.
Back in 2013, so about 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Been a lot of changes, a lot of development there. How does it feel now to A, have more females, and B, have more smaller fighters?
It feels great.
Yeah?
I love fighting or training with females. I think it's fun.
Yeah?
Because we
You didn't
can,
have those years ago.
No,
it was
we
like
did not.
you, Vita, and that's kind of it.
Well, even when I was a kid growing up, like in the kids' classes and stuff, I was the only girl all the time.
So this has been a forever problem.
Yeah, like I was always the only girl. So I always tell the girls in my kids' class in jiu-jitsu, I'm really proud to see all you girls here, because when I was your age, I didn't have these other training partners. I had to go with boys, which is fine,
Sure.
which is great. It made me tough. But it's just fun to see. It's cool to see all these like little girls and in jiu-jitsu, and so I think now that it's getting more popular with older females
Totally.
too, it's so much fun. So when I first moved here, my dad was here first before we moved over here, and he told me that there was another female, which was Vita, and I was like, and I was thinking she was going to be like my weight class or whatever, maybe a little bit heavier,
Sure.
but she was a little heavy, like she was
Right.
fighting at 135 at the time.
Couple weight classes.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, she's not gonna be my weight class. But then I was like, oh, that's okay, because that'll make it better though, because now we don't have to worry about one day if we fight each other or anything like that,
Right.
So, and I think that made our relationship stronger too. Like I think the fact that we can just train together, and then after we train together and punch each other in the face, we go out to lunch or something,
Totally, yeah.
like it's fun. It makes it fun.
Well, she had to
So.
be super stoked to finally get another female in there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That was a legit fighter and here to train and
Yeah.
get fights and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it was probably just awesome. You
Yeah.
walk in, she's like, yes, finally.
I know, yeah, and I think for everybody, even like Stephanie Hernandez at the gym,
yeah.
she's actually a 105er now, so it's kind of cool.
And she started around then, maybe a year later.
Yeah,
I think.
she was like here and there, but I think she started kind of fully coming along at like a year after I was
yeah.
there. So yeah,
Sounds right.
but so having her, and she's really good, and then now seeing all these other females, and
The
all
whole
these female,
stable
and now we
You
get to
guys
start a
have your
female
own-
class,
Yes.
and that's awesome. I think it's so cool.
It's like a legit
Yeah.
class. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys do the is it just open mat or just a
yeah,
grappling
just like open
class?
mat. If the younger belts have like questions or anything, which they usually do,
Which is awesome.
we like just help them out a little bit.
I always
but-
see you guys kind of balance between like, let's get some rolls in, and there's a couple rounds where you're really doing instructional stuff, and then you get back to rolling.
And then we always start our little class with like a circle. So we always talk about like our week because Leah.
So it's like a book club.
Yeah, a little bit with like a little bit of like beating each other up. But Leah from SBG Montana told me that females need, especially like females that aren't really athletes that just kind of do it for fun, need the social aspect. And
that's an interesting point.
Yes,
Yeah.
they need the social aspect. And so Leah makes it a point every month to take her girls out to like lunch or something like that, or go out, have like a lunch date with the girls once a month or something, which is something we're working on too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then she was just talking about that, the social aspect of it, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense, especially for me, Vita, Steph, like
For
we're
sure.
kind of there to train and fight and
For sure.
and everything, we can hang out later type of deal, but a lot of like the moms or the girls that are just trying to stay fit,
Yeah,
and,
the hobbyist.
they like the social aspect and getting to know, we don't hang out with everybody outside of the gym,
Sure.
all the time. So we always make it a point to start in a little circle and like talk about our week, the good days and the bad days. And then we were like, all right, well, let's start our weekend strong and get some rolls in.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah,
That's
it's
very
pretty
cool. Yeah, it's good. Good to see that. Like, I mean,
that's important
For sure.
I think, especially when you're in small groups of people and mothers,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of the time, those mothers, that's their only escape.
Yes, exactly.
They're
Yes, that's true.
and
Yeah.
when you're around a bunch of kids all day, if you have like more than one kid, it'll drive you fucking crazy.
And I can already tell having those kids for like an hour a day, I'm like, oh my gosh.
And they have them for the other 23
yeah,
hours.
Exactly. So I'm like,
It's so funny.
That's why I don't have kids.
She'll come home after coaching and she's like, yeah, baby fever's gone, like stuff like that. I'm like,
Baby fever's
They're so
gone.
cute, but like,
my God.
Yep.
yeah.
she's like, I'm okay with like being around other people's kids.
I'm cool with being
I'm the
cool
greatest
Aunt
uncle.
Shino.
Bingo.
I know I'm
That's it.
so good at being an uncle, so that's as far as it goes right now.
For sure.
Maybe donate some sperm.
Make a little extra cash.
yeah.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's like at this point in my life, I don't have kids for a reason.
Yeah.
But I really would love to have kids. I just do not have the patience because of where I'm at in my career and certain things.
Oh,
you start to get
same.
settled, especially I'm 33. So you start to get a little bit settled and you get a little more comfortable and a little more selfish, but you still want to have a child.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And see,
At the
I'm
end of the
23,
day,
so I'm over here like
got a
I
while.
still have like my
Plenty
whole
of time.
career to
Plenty
Give it
like,
10
yeah,
years.
like I still have a
Plenty
lot
of
of things
time.
I want to do for myself before
and
any
you
of
need
that.
to,
so.
and that's important.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
should
It is
invest in
important.
yourself.
Yeah.
100%. Make sure, above all else, that the people who are directly influenced by your decisions and yourself benefit from every type of decision that you make.
Yeah.
Always be beneficial. Make sure that you are on top of every type of decision that you make. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of it is cool to like interact with those moms too, to like kind of get to know those moms a little more too, and like, man, I give moms props.
Totally.
Yeah, and
Totally.
I give them props for doing all that hard work and still making time to like better themselves physically, doing jujitsu and mentally, doing jujitsu and stuff, putting their kids in it, or even like putting their kids in it and then doing it themselves to show their kids,
Yeah.
that, oh, mommy's doing it too. Kind of, I think that's so cool, and I think it's cool to see all that.
It is very cool
like
to see.
behind the scenes,
Yep.
and
Like Mandy is a good example.
Oh, Mandy's
she
a
was,
great example.
sitting on the sidelines for a long time.
Yeah.
The kids were doing it, and she was really hesitant. Now every open mat, she's
she's
there. She's
there.
putting in the
Women's
rounds.
class, she's there. Yeah.
Yep.
Always asking questions.
And she's a beast.
She is. She's so cool.
It's awesome to
they're
see.
cool moms.
I feel like you can tell me your thoughts on this from the female side, but I feel like the big reason why there's been such a growth in I can say from the male side is when I first started it in combat fitness or in MMA, whatever you want, whatever.
Yeah.
If you were at the gym, you were there to be a fighter, and if you weren't there to be a fighter, why are you here? Whereas now we embrace the hobbyist and the person who just wants to learn a skill, get fit, be there because their kids are there, whatever the case is. So I feel like do you feel like that's a big contributor to why there's such a growth on the women's side?
Oh, yeah. I think a lot, because Vita's a good example. Vita started jiu-jitsu or started training because she wanted to get in shape. And I think, and a lot of girls, especially, there's a rare case, I mean, you see it more now that women's MMA is getting bigger and bigger, but it's a rare case when you hear people doing jiu-jitsu since they were 6 years old, you know,
right.
So I think with women, you hear a lot of women say, oh, I started Michelle Watterson, I started MMA because I wanted to get in shape after I had kids. And then they just got hooked.
It just went from there.
Yeah, they just got hooked, and then they competed in jiu-jitsu a little bit, and then they were like, oh, I'm just going to take a few amateur fights, and then it turned into this big career, and I think that's a big reason. I think that's a big reason why we have so many females now, you know, and I think that it's cool. And I think it's cool for them, too, to see other females like me, myself, or Vita, Stephanie, that are the athletes, you know, the women athletes of the gym, and then they see like, oh, they can do it, and then now we have like Riley who's starting to fight more, and now we have, you know, all these other,
a lot of jiu-jitsu
all these other
competitors.
girls, a lot of jiu-jitsu. Jill is a great, you know, she's wanting to like compete a lot more, and you have a lot of girls wanting to, you know, start competing soon in MMA and, you know, stuff
There's
like
some
that.
of them that are just doing boxing now. They're sparring on Sundays.
So it's super cool to see all of that, and I think that is a big reason why women's MMA is growing. I think it's getting more accepted by men too. I think a lot of men were a little weirded out about women punching each other, and
it's kind of like
back in the day.
It's very oddly attractive, right? Watching two chicks just beat the shit out of each other.
I think now
it's weird,
wasn't
right?
there-
It's
wasn't
like
there-
it's like a primal thing.
Yeah.
It's
I
weird.
think with
Yeah,
girls,
like
it's definitely more emotional.
death or
Yeah.
glory kind of a thing. And when a dude watches that, like, holy shit, those chicks are hardcore. Because it's typically like we're used to men.
You expect it
being
from a dude.
very
You
aggressive.
expect it from
Yeah,
dudes.
it's an alpha mentality, right?
But I think a lot of females want to prove that they can do it too, you
Totally.
know, and I think that's what's cool about it. Yeah.
And I think that's what's very attractive, not in like a
sexual way.
sexual
Yeah,
sense,
yeah.
but it's very attractive. It's very engaging, I should say, when I see something like that. And when it's very good form, and these women are at the peak of their abilities, and they are heightened beyond like anything that I can understand, because when you're in that cage, it is literally death or glory.
Oh yeah.
Like it's ride or die.
Yeah.
Like you are in there to be at the end, having your hand raised to be the winner. And competition is in itself very attractive, because those are the people who make they make everything great. Like competition in itself, America, right? Let's think about it on a capitalistic level. Competition, when it comes to looking at something that somebody has created and seeing a flaw and saying, I can make that better. And when you're in the ring and you're watching your like opponent, or you're watching somebody who has fought them, you think, I can do that way better. Like that person has flaws in more ways than you know, and it's all about diagnosing who your competition is and making yourself better. And to me, it's an attractive quality for somebody who invests their time,
like the dedication.
their effing. That is an attractive quality in all. Like it's something, whether you're male, female, it doesn't really matter. It's just like a quality. If I were to hire somebody, I would look at their history and say, hey, did they make it better? Did they do their last job better than the person before them? Like that to me is important, because at the end of the day, it's the bottom line. You know, it's like making sure that you improve above everybody else, because everybody, there's somebody who's invested in you. Regardless, your trainers, the people who spar with you, the people who train with you. So for me, that's what's very interesting and attractive, especially on the female level, because it's something. It's a very niche market.
Oh yeah.
Think about the WNBA. Nobody watches the WNBA. Half the people listening to this probably were like, "What the fuck is the WNBA?" But at the end of the day, it's like people who compete and they improve themselves on an overall level, they deserve the respect, they deserve the attention, and I think it's important because it's an ever-evolving sport, especially with like WMMA, right? Women's, did I say that right?
Yeah,
Women's, MMA. So, and we see it especially with Kat Zingano and like all the names coming up. I don't even. Exactly.
Cyborg.
Rousey was the one who
Nunez,
kind of like, she's the one who kind of set it off.
Yeah.
And you saw how quickly it evolved after she got knocked out.
Oh, man.
And all of a sudden that sport, WMA, UFC, like the women's side, as soon as Rousey was dethroned, it evolved over like five fights. It was like boom, boom, new person, and it was a completely different story.
And it was funny because I heard someone say that Ronda Rousey, she was a very dominant champion and in an evolving weight class.
Totally.
So it was a brand new weight class in the UFC. Women's MMA was still brand new at the time.
Yeah.
So there was new talent, and she was champion, and she did open the doors for all of us females. But she was also champion in a developing weight class. So she was bound to get dethroned, and then after that, it just the door is open for everybody.
And I might sound kind of old right now, but she reminded me of the Gracies back in the day, where nobody knew how to fucking take her down. Like, nobody knew how to fight her. Nobody knew. And then all of a sudden, once somebody figured it out,
it changed the entire
sport. It changed the entire sport.
It totally
It changed the entire sport, you know?
They were
like
defeated
the Gracies,
before they got in the cage with
but
her.
Hoist Gracie, that dude was like... He just took care of everybody, submitting everybody back there, right? And then all of a sudden, once people figured out that like kickboxing and all this other stuff could be meshed together, homeboy was done. Because they figured out his game. And that's how I saw it. I don't know. Again, I'm an amateur when it comes to, a consumer of this stuff, but that's what I saw. So and that's how I interpreted it.
For sure, Yep. And I think it's cool to just see women like put themselves out there in a male dominant sport. You know, it's kind of cool to see that. Like, you see girls play basketball and soccer and all that. And you've always seen that.
The lingerie league, and
So stupid.
the football lingerie league.
Or
it's
like when
cool.
when you think of females, you think of like dance and gymnastics. So it's kind of cool to see. I think that's what the attractive part too is, like seeing females put themselves out there in a male dominant sport.
Bloody nose, getting their ass beat.
I did ballet when I was like 5 years old. I started out doing ballet, and my parents put my brothers in jiu-jitsu, and they were like, "Do you want to do jiu-jitsu?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "No, I want to do ballet," And then when we moved, there was no like ballet studio nearby, but we found jiu-jitsu, and so I was like, fine, I'll try it. And then I got hooked, so.
But it translates well, right? Like as far as your balance.
It translates flexibility.
You definitely find your center of balance. I skateboarded growing up, so for me, skateboarding had an influence on everything I did. I went off, played college football. I boxed for many years. I've done a lot of stuff, but like skateboarding 100% defined who I was, the way that I found my center of balance, everything. And I would probably assume, for the most part, something that you have a foundation in, which would be ballet, which centers on your core, your balance, a lot of different stuff. That translates extremely well. In my opinion, to something that would have to do with fighting, right? You have to be swift on your feet.
For sure.
You have to be good with your hands. You have to have good balance. You have to be center-footed. You have to be, like, center-minded.
And not that I did ballet, like, for a long time. I only did ballet for, like, a year or two, because it was the girly thing to do, and I was, like, 5.
You were supposed to.
Yeah, like, I was 5, and, that's what I was supposed to do. So, it's not, but... And I really liked it when I was 5, but jiu-jitsu was fun because I started beating all the boys, and and then I was like, my dad was like proud and happy, and then so I was like, oh, I kind of like it. Like I get the attention, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I get the attention in this sport more. So, and I'm the only girl too, so attention always had to be on me.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
The evolution of women's MMA is very interesting, just historically, because I remember back in the day when Dana White said, like, I'll never have females in the UFC.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
women's MMA was basically, I mean, it was like exhibition matches. Like Elite XC had a small tournament, and they announced it almost as an exhibition, where they were just like, we got such and such on the card, and we've got a women's fight. You know, like it was this like it was almost like they were saying, like, you know, we got like alligators or something. Like it was something so foreign and crazy. And then it was only one weight class, which it still was in the UFC for many years, but it was one weight class. And then if you're an MMA fan, you'd get on SureDog or whatever, and you'd look up, like, what's the top 10 in this weight class? And there wasn't even a top 10. It was like, these are the top 6.
I was in the top 10.
Yeah.
I was like number 8 or 9 or something like that. Like, I was in the top 10 when I was like 17.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you look at the top 10 and it's like,
because there was like 4 people.
Exactly.
I was still number 9.
It's like number 9 is like a 1-0 person from Switzerland or something, because they had fought.
Yeah.
And so they were in the top 10. And nowadays, it's like, I talk to people who are MMA fans. Obviously, like, I'm surrounded by everybody that's in MMA. But you talk to them, and the women's MMA fights are not viewed any different than the men's.
No,
like, they'd be like,
if anything, they're
John Jones fight, but dude, Rousey's fighting Nunes, and it's gonna be crazy, and her hands
and I
are
feel like, if
sick,
anything, they're more excited for the girl fights nowadays.
I always am.
The girls go hard, man.
Always am. Like that. Not too long ago was Paige Van Zandt and Michelle Waterson.
Michelle Waterson. Yeah, that was a great fight.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
it's a great fight.
So good.
Great fight.
And then every time, like, Felice Herrig fights, someone gets bloody, and it's a total mess, and it's a blast.
Yesterday's fight with Tisha Torres and Weili.
Ooh, that was a great fight. Did you watch that?
I didn't watch that.
Weili Zhang, I think is how we're pronouncing it.
Yeah.
But
pretty good.
Man, that was a great fight.
I could. It was so technical. Yeah, it was so technical. And me and Vince were saying, like, after it finished, I was like, I want to watch like 2 more rounds of this. You know, like we could watch a couple more rounds of this and be content. You know,
please keep going.
Yeah, exactly. There's a different level of intensity a lot of times when you see the girls, though, because, like, I don't know if it's something in their eyes and their mindset, whatever it is, they're trying to prove things still. Like, I just feel like they're doing everything with a different level of intent than some of the guys do.
For sure.
So
for sure. It's like you were saying, it's like a different emotion. Yeah. Not in like a weak sort of way.
No.
Very, like, they channel it very well.
I feel like it's more personal to them.
For sure.
Almost like it's like a more personal thing. Like it's their life.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, which is so cool.
It really is, like Tim was saying, death or glory.
Yeah.
And they're going to go out and do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare that I see a female fight that's like a TKO win, and it's because somebody just folds up and, like, gives up, basically. I see it all the time with dudes. Like, they get clipped and then they turtle up and they just hope for the best.
Okay, fine, I'm out of here.
But, like, with women's fights, like that Rousey Holm fight went until that kick and like that punch,
like,
and then,
until she was knocked out.
Like, and then when Holm fought Miesha Tate, like, that choke is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life, because Holly Holm was fighting, like, to the death.
Yeah.
And Miesha Tate was just digging in, and I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You are there to kill each other.
Yeah, that's for sure, like, one of my favorite, like, women's MMA moments was that, just because it was,
I think
like
there was a fight, there was a card where Paige and Sage fought on the same card, or no, was it Paige, and then I think Sage fought on the next card or something, but Paige she went out. She got choked out by somebody. I forgot who it was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
No, but it might have been Rose, but she got choked out.
I think it was.
And she went out cold. And then Sage, like, fought not too long after.
The arm triangle.
Yeah, and then he got put in an arm triangle or a rear naked or something. And then he, like, before they even squeezed, he, like,
yeah, exactly.
And I was like, oh man, like,
you don't see that in the girls, though.
No, not at all.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's good, because I hope, like, you know, being around the sport since it was viewed so different than it is now, it's so refreshing to see, because it was just so awful back in the day where it was like an exhibition. It's like, oh, girls are fighting. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like, I always see these comments. I mean, it's a lot more rare, which I think is great, but you still see the comments of just like, well, yeah, but that's a girl, and
Yeah.
like, oh, but girl
But now
fight,
it's kind of like,
I'd
now
still
it's
be-
kind
I'd
of like,
beat
oh,
her.
she's hot, so I'm gonna go for her. Now it's more of that.
That does happen. That does happen. But I always see those, and like I'll even hear them, and it's from people I work with or whatever. But they don't mean it in the way that they're saying it.
Yes.
They don't
Yeah.
mean
Exactly.
like, oh, it's
Exactly.
just a girl. They just mean like, well, yeah, but it's a girl, right?
Yeah.
And I have to like stop them and be like,
Actually, hold on.
Buddy Week is coming up. If you would like to come down and train with one of the females at my gym, I would love to see this. Please.
Yeah.
Please. Because
That's funny.
it's horrible. It is the worst. And
Yeah.
it's not has nothing to do with you or Vita or Riley or anyone else being a female. You're just an athlete beating the shit out of me. It sucks either way. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Uh-huh.
So being a female in the sport, have you had to deal with, or what kind of sort of sexism have you had to deal with? Like, do you get those comments, or do you hear
Oh,
those
yeah.
comments, or are you exposed to any of that where it's like,
Oh, yeah, my
if you were
DMs
a
are
dude,
full of 'em.
are they?
like inappropriate, like just
You're kidding.
No, oh, hopefully the guy doesn't listen to this. But I
don't get
got
specifically fine.
I got invited to I got invited to an Invicta show in Kansas by somebody that I'd never met before, and I get weird messages of like even like sponsors and stuff like that haven't really sponsored female fighters or anything before. They'll be like, oh, I don't have your number. And I'm like, oh, that's because you went through my manager last time. And they'd be like,
Right.
oh, well, do you live here? And I'm like, no. And they're like, do you ever come down here? And I'm like, not really, unless I have a fight. And
This
they're
is
like,
getting uncomfortable.
oh, that's too bad. Like, I wish you did. Stuff like that. And they're like,
Winky emoji.
old man, yeah.
I
and
message
like,
all those guys.
Do please.
or
Please
like,
do.
yeah, and then like I'll get
Extremely.
invited to shows and stuff. Like, oh, if you want to come with me, and I'm like, oh, I can't. Sorry, it's too soon or too far.
Do they not know that you're like dating somebody? Is that
Well,
not
yeah, that's the
yeah,
thing. That's the
that
weird
doesn't-
thing,
it's
right?
fucking weird.
That's the
It's
weird
on the
thing.
internet, it doesn't
that's
matter.
so
Yeah,
weird.
and it's always usually like older men too.
Of course it is. Of
Or
course
like
it is.
they'll ask me to like they'll ask for like my fight shorts or something after I've fought in them and stuff. Yeah.
That's weird.
It's so weird. Or it's funny because one time at Invicta,
That's so
at
fucking weird.
at like Invicta shows, there'll be people waiting, like men waiting in the lobby for like the fighters and stuff, and like me
To
I
like take
couldn't-
pictures or get
like
autographs
take
or what?
pictures and take autographs, but I can't go anywhere
fight
without
shorts.
like one of my cornermen because I need somebody
Right,
just because of
right.
like kind
A
of the
buffer.
security
Yeah.
reasons, I guess, because
Right.
I was going to Starbucks after weigh-ins. Don't worry, it was after weigh-ins. But I was going to Starbucks to get like a coffee during one of my fights, and there were people in the lobby, and there's one guy that had like all these pictures of females, and he was just waiting for every female to come down. And I saw him in the lobby, but I acted like I didn't, and I just kept walking because I had already signed like 3 other things for him throughout the week. And he started following me and Tomets and Jesse, and I was kind of walking fast ahead of them. And Tomets was like, what did he say? He was like, creeper alert, like really quietly, but I couldn't hear what he was saying, so I was like, huh? And then I turned around, he was like, Shino, and like was running, this bigger dude was like running, and will you sign this for me? And I'm like, man, I signed like 5 things for you already,
Yeah,
like,
so, no.
yeah, like regardless,
No.
it's not just me, but you
Right,
know, like
right, of
it is
course.
weird. And then
It's uncomfortable. Some dudes, I hear some of that stuff, makes my stomach turn. I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
it's
It's
really,
so cringy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, that's the thing is like you've experienced some weird stuff, but even just beyond the weird, like how many just douchey like messages, like what's it like being a female to just you gotta just get hit on like all the time through your DMs and stuff? Does that happen?
yeah, all the time.
It
Like
doesn't
if you look
happen
at my
anymore.
comments, if you look at my comments on my
It
Instagram
shouldn't happen.
pictures, there'll be like
Right.
wedding rings and stuff like that, or
Jesus.
like
So weird. And it's the
DMs are
married guys that you have to watch out for. Those are the fucking creeps, dude. Because most of the women that I talk to and I have conversations with, and they're on, like, I have other shows that I produce, couples shows, like relationship episodes, blah, blah, blah. it's the married guys who are the creeps, man. These are the dudes who are like starved for some type of attention, and they're the guys, and they're the older creeps who are like, hey, you're
trying to relive their youth and stuff.
These are the guys who are part of that thing, but at the end
Which,
of the
if
day,
I get stuff like that, I can't imagine like the bigger Michelle Watterson, Paige Van Zandt. I cannot imagine how much they get. You know, like
you don't even want to deal with that
like
shit.
if I already get that at where I'm at, you know, like it must be bad.
Have
for
you
them.
ever went through the comments of like one of their posts?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
It gets kind of creepy.
It's like 10,000 comments and 9,000 of them are dudes that are just like, I love you, marry me.
Or like, I'd let you triangle me, or something like all weird. Okay.
I can't stand that stuff.
Yeah, it's so weird.
That's a funny comment there. It's like, I'd let you triangle me, because I'll have people that are just like, oh, you know, like, what's it like training with like cute girls? And I'm like, you don't understand that like fighting with them is the least romantic thing on the planet. Like there is no point where I'm happy to be there or thinking like, oh, she's so pretty. It's just it's like fighting anyone else. It's the least sexy thing.
How often do girls choke dudes out on Pornhub? Let's be real.
It's true, yeah, but it is weird, and I feel like that's the part of MMA that girls are still trying to change, is like the sexual part.
Yes.
You know, they're the sex appeal, I guess, because Amanda Nunes complains about it all the time. I'm not pretty, so they don't promote me, or you know, whatever. I mean, they're doing better now because she's proved to be dominant, right?
She's beat the shit out of everybody.
But Ronda, look how much they promoted Ronda and put her in makeup and, you know, all these magazines and stuff. And how many magazines have you seen Amanda Nunes in? You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of just, it's still there, and it's still kind of and I feel like girls kind of still have to play the game a little bit, but you know, which
they don't have to. Some of them do, and they try to take advantage of it.
Yeah, which is, you know,
well, I imagine
there's probably
like
worked out for them, but
there's a balance between that they probably have to find as well. I mean, I don't know shit about it, but I would imagine so, because I see girls like Paige Van Zandt or Michelle Watterson that do ESPN shoots or stuff like that, which is great, and there has to be just that sort of balance between, this is a great opportunity for exposure and they're going to pay me $100,000 to do this. Sure. It's also going to fuel like the sexual side of you know, people getting on there and be like, oh, I loved your photo shoot,
right? Yeah, more eyes are going to be on you, and more people are going to be following you, which sucks that following has to be a part of the game, you know. The more following you have, the better fights you get and stuff, which, you know, whatever.
You're an entity that needs to be promoted.
But at the same time, I feel like that opportunity also gives it makes it easier for girls to climb the ranks a little more too. You know, like I could, if once the UFC gets a 105 division, I guarantee you, if I just like post one pretty picture of like a fight picture or whatever, I'm like in, you know, and I'm young, so you know, Dana White loves the young girls.
You're not gonna chick out and in a bikini and like a side by side, and people like, oh my god, and then Dana White's like,
we want to see her fight.
Exactly. So
remember that.
Yeah, I know. I'll write it down.
You are your own brand.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like it's cool that girls have that opportunity, you know, kind of the easy way in a sense, but at the same time, it kind of sucks that girls have to worry about that too.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are a product. Like, you're not, it's almost like you're not people. Like, you're a product that the UFC or whatever organization is selling. And they're going to sell the most appealing product. That's why people bitch about title fights. Like, well, this person deserves it. Yeah, but who gives a shit about that person winning and losing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that drives me nuts about immediate rematches and title fights. Okay, if it's like a split decision or a good fight, great. Let's run it again. But when, like, somebody gets choked out in, like, round 2 or knocked out and they're like, let's run it again, that's just product. All it is product, right? These the most popular, we're going to do it again. Your Conor McGregor's or whatever.
For sure.
So
there's always
that
a delicate
process.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like
game to play.
It is an interesting game to. It's a good game to play if you can play it and you do it right. But at the same time, it's kind of like, do I want people to know me for my game, or do I want people to know me because I'm pretty, you know, like it's kind of like how where like I want people to, I mean, of course I want people to think I'm pretty, you know, but of course I want people to think more that I'm a great fighter, you know. So how do I
Build
because
that
I mean,
version of the
Paige
brand.
Van Zandt, she's a good fighter, right? She's
Right.
a good athlete, but a lot of people bitch that she's only here because she's pretty, and it's like I don't want that when I
Right,
make it
for
to her
sure.
level one day. I don't want people to think like, oh, she only got that opportunity because she's
Which
cute
is so
or
so unfair.
yeah, which is so. It's kind of like
You're taking
how do
away
you play
from the fight
game?
side.
Yeah, so it's kind of like how do you play the game without.
It's like Tim said. It's like you are your brand, and you almost have to build it on both sides.
Yeah.
You have to be a good fighter.
Yeah, which I feel
and
like
you have to market yourself.
Yeah, which I feel like if you do get those opportunities because you're cute or whatever, you
But
just have
Paige
to
is
prove
great,
it, right?
though.
Yeah,
she's
you just
good.
gotta prove
She's
your
fun to
good work.
watch because she's good at
Yeah,
her craft,
but
and
see,
she's
she-
also very attractive.
But she also
she
lost
got
for the
beat.
first time, and then she got all this hate, of like,
Yeah.
oh, well, it
Yeah,
was
you
bound
were
to
just there
happen.
because
you
Yeah,
were
it's like you have
sponsor.
no room to like kind of make mistakes if you're pretty
Yeah.
or you
Right,
know what I mean.
right.
Like
Yeah.
it's so. Of course, like I just have to prove everybody wrong, and yeah, I got here maybe because I was pretty, but I can fight.
I
But
can
you
also fight.
if you have like one bad day and you happen to lose, you kind of they're like relentless on you for that. Oh, you didn't. It was bound to happen. Like
Well,
okay.
and we used to sponsor. So Pro Age Nutrition, we sponsored Jessica Clark, and she used to fight in Invicta, and she got pulled up to the UFC, and she fought, and she beat Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah.
Two beautiful girls, both awesome at their craft. Like, again, these are like two people at the top of their game, but at the end of the day, like you're saying, it's nice to be recognized for actually doing what you
like
do
being what I'm good at,
instead of
like
what
being,
you look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Because yes, you have to brand yourself a certain way, but these two women brand themselves very differently. Like if you were to look at like Jessica Clark, she's like tatted, like head to toe. She's very aggressive looking, shaved head, or shaved side head. She's she's very
edgy.
very edgy, right? And then you look at Paige, and she's like Playboy.
Clean and
She's like a Playboy model, right? But they both do it exceptionally well, and they sell themselves in a way that people are interested enough to get UFC to say, "Hey, let's sanction this shit." So. It is a shame, but again, you are in a male-dominated sport where guys.
So it's kind of like how much can
they're
you
expecting.
Yeah.
We're still fizzling out the whole ESPN, like bikini swimsuit edition, or the body issue. Like things are starting to fizzle out with like at least the bikini edition. I don't know. The body issue is a whole nother ball game because they try to pitch it as art, which it is, and it's beautiful, and those people should be recognized. I think it's actually a very elegant and professional way of recognizing these people's bodies. I think a human body in general, the specimen in and of itself, should be recognized, especially for people who do different sports, right? If you look at swimmers, they have lats that are insane. These people have like a body that is unlike any other person because the way they train, right? And the way their body is utilized. You look at people who wrestle, it is a very core-centered type of activity where you recognize this person's back and their gut is just like solid, dude, and their arms and their traps just fucking solid. And then you look at football players where, they've got these hips and these thighs and they've got these giant glutes and these giant shoulders, because of the way you
not
train.
necessarily a six-pack.
Exactly. And you don't have to because at the end of the day, that's not necessarily
You're building the
applicable.
tool specific for the job you're doing.
Yes. You are that toolbox. And so I think the body edition is one thing. That's something that I believe definitely beautifies the human body, and it represents the totality that each individual is a part of when it comes to their profession or something they're good at. The bikini edition or the swimsuit edition is glorifying just women looking hot.
Didn't they stop that a few years ago?
That's what I'm saying. We're just trickling off. That's what I was getting. I was like, we're just trickling off this whole like thing, and it's just transitioning into those same people who are like rocking the Affliction shirts,
Yeah,
you know, and wearing that type of gear. Those are the older guys who were subscribing to like the magazine and getting those editions.
Yeah.
And now it's like you have to figure out a way to measure branding between. It's going to be a given. The majority of women who are in the sport are going to look like amazing physically. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you have to make weight. You're going to look amazing. Like, that's just what it is. And sometimes sometimes it doesn't look that great because you're like, that girl starved herself for like 2 months.
Or like for girls, like the moms and stuff, if they've already had kids, you know,
Their body's different.
yeah, their bodies are different. They don't have like 6 packs, and you know, so it's
Exactly.
like
You find a way to create your brand.
But see, and I feel like you still have to be yourself too, because
sure.
I mean, Tomet's always told me like, oh, you're a girl, use it, you know, like use that, you know, and I was like, but that's not really me,
Right.
like, and
don't go out of your bounds.
No, and don't go out of my
Exactly.
way to do it, right? Because, and I see it too as I've been fighting since I was like 14, right? I've been a pro since I was 16. For people that have been following me and my career since I was 16, I was a little girl in their eyes. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'm getting older, of course, you know, and I'm an adult now, but it would be weird to one day see little girl Shino and then the next day I'm like almost naked, you know? Like, wouldn't that be weird?
And
like,
that's not right.
Yeah, and I
that's
was
not
like,
your
it's,
brand.
and it's not really how I want to let myself be known and stuff. And I
sure.
actually took a picture of myself the other day because I'm getting back into training again because of my knee and everything. And I was in a sports bra and my underwear. And I was like, my stomach looks really good here. And I was like telling Vince, I was like, I kind of want to post this because I'm proud of, you know, how my body's coming along and
course.
stuff. But you can pretty much see my butt almost. And I was like, I feel like this is too much for me. You know, I was like, this is too much for like me to post. And I was like putting like stickers and stuff to cover like, but I was like, no, I can't do it. Like, that's just not who I am.
It's still
you know?
my
Like,
wallpaper though.
What's of course.
but like of course, like me, like making weight and, you know, in my underwear or whatever, that's different. I'm working,
Yeah.
right? Or if I'm taking pictures in like spandex and like my fight gear or whatever, that's different. I'm working.
Sure.
But like, it's just not me to do stuff like that. And I
Right.
feel like
Which
I
is
think of like,
unfortunate
it's
because
not
that's
your
not
brand.
how you mean it.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't mean it to like
Yeah.
exploit yourself.
Exactly.
You're just proud of where
yeah,
you're at.
like I'm
you're
like,
on the road
yeah,
back.
I'm
and
like,
you're
man, my
working
stomach
hard.
looks good, and you know, like my butt's getting a little curvier again. You know, like I'm getting that summer bod, but
That's
I
kinda
just
what
feel
I like
like
about
You
what
should be proud
Tim
of.
was saying about
Yeah.
it, like just kind of about the body issue and stuff like that. Just making sure that people are focused, or like the focus
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have on that. Like it's the fact of what I'm doing, and this is what's getting built in the process.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
It's a
I
tool.
really like
This
what
is
you're
how I'm
saying
shaping
about
it.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
So-
Having appreciation for your body and knowing how hard you've trained and the work that's paid off, but obviously
You
not
should be able
being
to enjoy
flamboyant
that.
about
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
Yes.
for sure. But at
I'm
the same
proud of it.
time,
People
I
take
also,
advantage of it.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
also
that's the
don't,
thing.
and I also don't want like, not that I should be worried about what other people think of me, but I don't want other, I guess, females to think like, oh, she's just doing that to get attention.
You're exploiting yourself.
Or
Yeah.
or other
Because
guys
they
to
have
start sending me,
issues.
or like other guys to start sending me weird messages because I just want to like, you know, show my progress or whatever. You know what I mean? So I was like, it's okay. I'll
Next
just
time.
keep this. So yeah,
Maybe
I'll
next
next time. Maybe next time.
Self-document it and
Yeah.
maybe post one photo, like
Yeah.
one progress photo in a year from now, and say, "Hey, this is where I'm at from my last couple of fights
yeah.
or whatever,
Maybe
and this
I'll
is
do
where
that,
I've
yeah.
been."
So-
Super easy. You don't have to document
So I
the
feel
whole
like
journey.
it's important to stay yourself too, but
Oh, that's super important
Yeah.
and undervalued. Like,
Yeah,
I
for
think,
sure.
I think it can be
Unfortunately.
easily taken away too, because
Yeah.
everybody's going to tell you to do something different.
yeah. So
So, I mean, it might be similar for you, Vince. You're pretty. How
Thanks,
many
dog. Appreciate
how many old men ask for your fight shorts?
I don't want to talk about it.
Many.
Not as much as I was expecting. Just kidding.
Not as much as you hoped for. Couple more fights, and maybe we'll have the grip on that.
Oh, I do get some weird stuff too, and it's always the guys, man. I hate guys. Guys are the worst.
do you get girls? Like any girls?
Like I get weird stuff. I just kind of avoid most of it just because I don't know. It doesn't
I always
just
tell
garbage.
him.
Garbage.
I'm like,
Just like
oh my
whatever,
god,
dude, yeah.
guess who messaged me this?
I just kind of sweep it under a rug. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
Is it more annoying when it happens to you or when you hear it happen to her?
When I hear it happen to her, because I don't know if she handles it the same way. Because I'm pretty good at sweeping under the rug and it not being like I won't ever have to think about it again.
Right, you just delete it and move on.
If she's talking to me about it, she's obviously thinking about it. So I'm like, it's like, oh man, I'm sorry, that's bugging you. And it's like, what can?
It's a problem now.
Yeah, dang it. So
That's unfortunate. I do
Yeah.
feel like all things considered, at least, I mean, as long as I've been around the sport, we're still moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
I
oh,
agree.
for sure.
Still
100%.
way
Yeah.
better than we were. And as it goes on, I mean, we
Yeah.
live in a pretty like conservative area, and I hear way less of that stuff and a whole lot more of like, this
Yeah.
girl's striking is sick and she head kicked so and so.
Oh, yeah,
she's such
for
a good
sure.
wrestler and yada yada yada. So
I love hearing people point out the
least we're-
skills of people.
yes,
That's about it.
Yeah,
yes.
it's
Like,
super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's for like MMA on the whole. I
Yeah,
mean,
as a
you
whole,
know,
exactly.
15 years ago, like you had those fans that like, oh, that guy's kicking his ass because he's on top, and it was like, you mean the dude that just got his arm broken? Like
Yeah.
you
Right,
don't know
right,
what you're
right.
looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a boring fight. You don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, but you're seeing that evolve with the fans as well. Like people
For sure.
know, or they're getting a better understanding of what's going on.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
Which is super cool.
And I think that's I feel like that's bringing more people to the training side of the sport too, because it totally changes when you really like understand it because you experience it. And so I see people at the gym, some of the older guys, they're not looking to build a career out of this, but they have an affection for the sport, and it's changed to where they can comfortably come in and train with people who are fighters with no expectation of being a fighter, and then they get to know the sport and they understand the position, and so then they go watch it as a fan, and they're like, I know what's happening here, and I understand this,
sure.
and oh, look at his footwork or whatever, and it's like, that's awesome to see.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
It's
some of my
super
favorite
cool.
stuff. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the worst things are the fans that are just like, get him.
That bugs me so.
you don't know what you're talking about.
To my core, that bugs me.
Yep, totally. It's an interesting sport.
It is.
For something so like that takes so much work and is so, I mean, I don't want to say violent, but I mean it is a contact sport, it's a combat sport, and you have to work really hard. It's interesting that it's one of the only sports you can start anytime in your life.
Yeah.
You
awesome.
can
It's
start.
so crazy
There's-
because I started when I was 6.
Sure.
But Vince,
I didn't
you
start till I
were,
was 22, 23.
yeah.
Yeah.
Vita too. I think she was like she started training when she was like 20, 21
Yeah,
too.
same.
So it's like
after high
yeah.
school, after all the traditional sports. I mean, if you were 22, you couldn't ever go, man, I really want to try playing football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you can't really do that.
You
Wow.
couldn't do that.
Weird.
It's really peculiar.
Our sport's the holy grail.
It really is. It really is. Like, I want to start gymnastics. No.
Yeah, nah, it's not gonna happen. No.
That's so cool though. That's so cool about this sport.
Yeah.
It is.
And
It's
you can
very
do
cool.
it till you're like old.
Forever.
Yeah, like jujitsu.
Yeah.
You know, jujitsu. You can do it till you're
Literally
yeah.
forever.
I want to be that black belt grandma.
I mean, like, I love boxing, but 10 years from now, like, there's not a boxer that's going to be, like, still training that trains right now. I
Yeah.
don't care where they train or how much they compete. Like, you're not going to be training. But jiu-jitsu, like,
yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can do it
Forever.
Day and night.
forever.
Yeah, it's a special sport for sure.
So since your last fight in Invicta, got the injury, so basically
Yeah.
just rehabbing that, getting it better, and
Hopefully,
Just so we know, though,
just get back on
they're
track.
talking about that girl, the girl that she was supposed to fight, getting a title shot next,
Ooh, interesting.
which is a little frustrating.
yeah, it is.
Interesting.
But I mean,
She couldn't have fought that many times between now and then.
twice I think.
Is that
She's
it?
Yeah, is
not.
that it?
Well, she fought the
Fought
time
that
we were
fight and
supposed
then
to
one
fight,
more.
and then one more, which was against Amber Brown, who I lost to.
Mm.
Yeah. So they're talking about her and somebody else for a
The
title shot.
contention.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then like a title contention or something. So
Nice.
they might have her fight somebody. But I see it as, like, I might as well. I'm not really one to call people out, but I might as well like maybe ask for it
Try to
when I
get
come
that-
back,
try
just
to get
because.
that match.
I mean, she's 5-0 now, you know. So all I have to say is, well, you guys were going to put me against her anyway.
You beat the
so,
3-0
yeah,
girl.
and you know that her story would be different if she were to fight me.
Totally.
You know, she just got lucky.
Should be 4-1.
And then you're in there. And then you're in it. And then you're in
right?
it.
So she just got kind of lucky, and you know, I happened to get hurt. 'Cause I mean, she's a good wrestler, but I mean, I think that I'm
That's not a
better
problem.
everywhere else.
Not a
Yeah,
problem.
like I think I'm better everywhere else, and she hasn't done anything like that kind of has scared me or made me think like, oh, she's dangerous, you know, like in her last like this is gonna be a hard fight. Like even with Amber Brown, I feel like she just kind of took Amber down and kind of laid on her, a little bit. Like, so it's nothing that I haven't seen before.
Sure.
And so I'm kind of thinking about it, but we'll see where I'm at. I don't want to like step over my boundaries and say, you know, like I don't want to have like a bad image to Invicta or anything, like, you know, oh, you have to give me that fight, or you know, like I don't want to be like
trying
that.
To make demands
So
fair enough.
Yeah, but
so speaking of grappling and jiu-jitsu, you also competed in Submission Underground.
I did. Yeah.
When was that?
When?
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it wasn't as long as it is. I know it was like forever ago.
End of 2017. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
like
right.
December of 2017.
How was that experience? What was that experience
That
like
was
doing
cool.
just a straight up grappling match?
Yeah. So I actually popped my ankle. Cameron, I'm getting way too injured.
I know.
I
basically tape you together.
Yeah, I know. I actually popped my ankle, but that was a really cool experience. Like, I literally just had to go in a cage and like grapple somebody. I didn't have to worry about punches or kicks. And I like threw this like flying arm bar that I didn't get, but
it's okay.
No, but it was super cool. Chael Sonnen, I think, was there and everything. I didn't get to meet him or anything. That would have been cool, but yeah, the whole experience was pretty cool. Like, just chill. I didn't really have to cut any weight because I was competing at 115.
Sure.
So, yeah.
It was really just kind of like almost just a fun thing to do.
Yeah. Which is the not cutting weight made it way funner because when I don't know if anyone's told you guys, but cutting weight as a female is not that fun. So
you just told me it's less than great.
I've seen YouTube videos. It's terrible.
It's just like, I don't know why for girls it's like, I don't know if it's because we are more emotional or what, but
could be hormonal.
Well,
like when you dehydrate yourself, it changes your hormones.
Yeah, and it's
so
like
for girls, it's gonna be different.
Even not having that, I was just like having fun. You know, I was just
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all.
Do some grappling.
Like, do some grappling. Come home. Like,
you almost don't even need a strategy.
I'm just gonna go in there and have some fun. Of course, like popping my ankle wasn't the plan, but I mean, it wasn't like a big injury or something. I just had to.
Yeah, you were back pretty quick.
Yeah, I just had to take like a couple weeks, you know, just ice it and stuff, and then I came back, but. Yeah, that was really fun. I would love to do it again if they let me back.
Well, I guess they're bringing it back.
Really?
They're having another show. The last one they did was the one that you were on.
Oh, really?
And they're finally bringing it back. They're doing Paige Van Zandt and her boyfriend, whatever his name is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I heard about that because I was like, we should go and compete.
Yeah, exactly. Couple versus couple.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding because they're way heavier.
Yeah. He's like 190 or something.
Yeah, and Paige is 125. So
I trained with him while I was over at Gracie Baja in Portland.
Oh yeah.
Trained near him. Just kind of watched him. Dude's tank.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, he's like a NAIA wrestling champ or something, and he's all muscle.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, he's thick.
Dope though, real cool guy.
That's cool.
Really cool guy.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
But no, that was a really cool experience. I think the girl I went against, she was a former Invicta fighter, and a former UFC fighter.
Oh wow!
Actually, yeah. She was a brown belt at the time,
nice.
Which I should just consider myself a brown belt at this point. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I do.
I'm just kidding. But
you feel like a brown belt when we roll. You feel like
no, I've been feeling great when I roll. Like getting back in, I feel like breaks in jiu-jitsu are so healthy.
It's like therapeutic.
Because I just feel like when you come back to jiu-jitsu, I don't know about striking and stuff, but when you come back to jiu-jitsu, like I just feel great moving around and transitioning, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I needed that. I'm like, feel so good, and like
it's almost like information overload because jiu-jitsu is so complex that when you're doing class after class and then you're testing all that in roll versus roll, if you're rolling to like do the things that you've been doing, which is smart, that's how most people do it, then it's almost like you're spending too much time computing, and so you just got to shut the computer down for a little while,
for sure.
And then when you come back, you're like, let's see what's there, and it'll just be kind of fluid, and then I can build from this point. Whereas like striking, I mean, I come from boxing, and let me tell you, it's pretty simple. There's like 5 punches, there's one stance, right? And when I take time off of boxing, I come back and I'm like, I know all this, but I don't want to do it. Like, I'm,
yeah, for sure. It's like jujitsu is a different kind of passion. I feel like, and that's why, like I told you earlier in the week, I was like, I like looking forward to things in jujitsu, and like I like that like feeling of achievement.
Yes.
You know, so. Or like, ooh, when am I going to achieve it? You know, and even if it's a long time, like I don't get butthurt. Like I'm kind of more like, oh, it's okay. That's more time for me to enjoy the process, you know, right? Like,
and you get different goals.
Yeah,
whereas like
exactly.
striking, it's like, I want to knock you out. I want to knock you out. I want to knock you out.
Exactly.
And in grappling, it's like, I got an armbar. I got a choke. I got dominant position.
Exactly.
I stayed on top that whole round. And it's like, you can kind of pull from all these different areas of success rather than just like, I hit hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I
like how you looked at me when you said that.
And I like that about jiu-jitsu, and just a lot of things to look forward to, you know, your belts and, you know, what you're going to do for the day.
The levels of accomplishment.
Or like, you know, like your goals for the day in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. Like it's super fun. And I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time, so like, you know, that it was my first sport really.
Sure.
And so I think I got burnt out for a little bit, and I wanted to work on my hands, you know, which, you know, I was on a boxing kick for a while, but then like once I came back to it, I just like fell in love with it and stuff. And I'm like having so much fun with it right now. Yeah. And I think it was just something I needed to do, is just take a little bit of time off. And
sounds like it was therapeutic.
Like, yeah, it has been. And I think I'm having fun again, you know, with everything, because people forget that I've been doing this for so long, like since I was a baby I've been doing like this sport. So of course you get tired of it, you know, like I mean, especially in my teenage years, like I had to sacrifice so much. You want to do other things, and you want to be a teenager. Yeah, and like I couldn't go to my proms or my homecomings. I couldn't do these things because I had practices, or you know, like I couldn't, like if I wanted to play basketball, I couldn't play basketball because my mom, you know, my mom wouldn't let me. I had practice. And so I missed out, and I sacrificed a lot of stuff. So I think like when I became an adult and I was able to make my own rules and stuff, of course I still love the sport, but I was like, well, I want to go party. And if I want to go party, I'm going to go party, you know, like, so I think I just kind of, not lost sight, but I just, you know, you kind of...
But you wanted to live the things that you didn't get to
when I was a teenager, which isn't the biggest deal. It's not, I know a lot of kids...
But at the time, it's everything.
Oh, man, I was a drama queen because of that, I was such... No, I was such a drama queen. I remember I would skip practices when I was a teenager, but there was like a homecoming on a Saturday, but I had practice, like a 3-hour practice before homecoming, and my mom was like, oh, we have to go to that, but I wanted to spend all day getting ready with my friends,
of course. As any teenager does.
So I like literally skipped practice, and I did that, but my mom found out, and she almost not let me go to homecoming, but I was like crying, and I was like, please just let me go.
That story, you told me that story where you went to some dance and had a tournament the next day?
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorite stories.
I went to prom, in which my mom almost didn't let me go to because I had a jiu-jitsu tournament the next day. Yeah. But I had been asked to prom, and I said yes because I wanted to go. And then I was like, Mom, I got asked to prom. And she was like, you can't go. And I was like, well, I already said yes. And he kind of already bought the tickets.
And it's prom.
And those tickets were like $90 tickets, right?
Right.
And they were stupid expensive that he had already bought. And so I was like, no, Mom, I kind of have to, you know. And she was like, well, you have to do jiu-jitsu. And I was like, I'll still go to the tournament. And she was like, you better win. So I had all this pressure because I was competing in my weight division and in absolute. Ooh. And so after prom, me and my friend, actually one of my best friends, her little brother does jiu-jitsu, and he was actually going to the same tournament. So I convinced my mom by saying, well, Alex's parents are going to go the next day from the hotel anyway, so I'll just stay with them and then, you know, go to the tournament. My mom was like, okay, fine, but you better win. If you don't, then, you know, I'm in trouble. Yeah, whatever. And me and my brothers never, ever got all three of us gold. right? Like if Hunter and Koji got gold, I ended up getting silver. If I got gold, they got silver. If me and Koji got gold, Hunter got silver. None of us ever got gold, and the little kids were first, and they both got gold. And I was like, oh my god!
Even more pressure.
Yeah, I was like,
More pressure.
and I had gotten gold in my weight division, but I still had to compete in my absolute division, and I was like, I'm not gonna win this, and my mom's gonna be so. I used to be so scared of my mom and like losing in front of my mom, and I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna get this, and then I forgot how I won, but I finally won. I won, and so I got double gold that day. Plus, my brothers got gold, and it was our last tournament in Japan because we were moving here, and so that was like a great way.
Yeah,
the day after
amazing.
prom, and I was
Coolest.
just like,
That's
okay, see, Mom. Sometimes you just gotta let me let loose a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
But she was.
Awesome.
I think
See,
she
it
was.
didn't interfere at all.
I think she was a little upset that I did win, just because she wanted to prove a point.
Exactly. Yeah,
she wanted to like prove a point that oh, you have to train type of thing, or stay focused. But yeah, that was a funny story.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, who's this Alex? First of all, you said you went to prom with.
Oh no. No,
Getting beat up, I'll tell you that much.
No, her name's Alexandra,
Oh,
but I
okay.
call her
There we go,
Alex.
there we go.
Yeah, so I went with
Gotcha,
her,
gotcha.
but someone else
Gotcha.
had asked me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll beat her up too.
Whoever, doesn't matter. She's a fan.
That's funny.
So, speaking of Vince, man,
Yes.
had you on a little while ago. We've had some changes since then, some updates.
I was trying to figure out how long ago that was.
It was, I don't know.
Is that before Contender? Is that after Contender?
That was after Contender.
Okay.
So after Contender, it was like literally like a week before you got the call from the UFC. Because it was like a week
is that
later,
it?
and she messaged me and she's like, "You're gonna want to have Vince back." I
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
you were one of the guys that knew
yeah.
the inside
boy.
secret.
Yep,
I
yep.
was like,
I
you're
knew.
gonna have Vince
I
back.
knew.
Mm-hmm.
So, shortly after our show we did with you, you got the call from the big dogs,
Man, that was awesome.
the UFC, man, the dream.
Yeah, the dream,
The
for real.
goal.
I was literally training when I got the when I got the call, when I missed the call because I had 3 missed calls from my manager, Jason House. I got in training, looked at my phone, I was like, "What is going on? This dude must need something." Just because that was kind of far from my mind, because the last thing I had, as far as experience with the big dogs, was getting choked out right in front of Dana White. So I was like,
Cool.
yeah, awesome. So I'm not expecting
cool.
nothing for a little while. Yeah, and so I called him back, and he's like, "Dude, I got you in." I was like, what are you
what?
talking about? Yeah, what's going on? He's like, we're going to China. I was like, what's in China? He's like, UFC Fight Night 141 or something like that. And I was like,
Wait,
like,
we're going to watch?
I'm gonna call you back. And yeah, I was like, oh man, I kind of didn't know what to say. I was like, you're the man, because he is.
Right.
That dude does a lot, and he's just on it all the time. Anytime I text him with a question, that dude's on it. Like, doesn't
Good.
matter what it is. So
Yeah, you won't.
yeah, so I was like, oh man. I was like, hold on. So called over my coach. I was like, dude, we're going to China. He's like, shut up, we're gonna go to China. I was like, we're gonna go to China. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, UFC. And I just kind of gave my phone to coach, and I walked out because I was like, oh man, I'm gonna freak out.
Yeah, how do you even process that?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, relax. Who's the opponent? Doesn't matter. What's going on? Okay. Yeah, I was like, how do I tell Shino? I think Shino was the first person I told, other than coach. I was like, how do I tell my parents? Like it's a big deal. Okay, got my passport. I was just
where
my
to
mind
even
was
begin?
Racing, dude. It was crazy. And yeah, I just. I started driving home, and I got like a 15-minute drive from the gym, and I had goosebumps the whole time, and I was just like squeezing the steering wheel, white knuckling it, and I was like,
Like
okay,
all giddy.
cool. Yeah. Oh man, I was freaking out. I was like, okay, cool. This is exactly what I need right now, because like that's what I've been chasing forever. So, oh man, it's still even now, it's been great the entire time, regardless how the fight turned out. Like it's been great, and like
treat you well.
I knew that if I was gonna get in, it was gonna be for a last minute replacement thing, and I thought I was ready for that. So, yeah, here we are.
Boom. Had your first fight in the UFC.
Yeah, first
Not
fight in the
only
UFC in China.
first fight in
Yeah.
the UFC in China. You clearly work for them now because everything you wear says UFC. You got
No idea what you're talking
UFC
about.
slippers. You got UFC pants.
Slides. How dare you?
Oh, slides. My bad.
What did your
shirt.
coach call them? Slips?
Yeah.
Slips.
Coach calls them slips.
You get them UFC slips.
Yeah. I'm always wearing something UFC now.
Hey, they give you swag.
It's
Wear
my
it,
favorite
man.
stuff, dude. Yeah, heck yeah.
Whatever. You got to show it off. Proud.
All about it. Yeah.
You're just, shopping
But
at.
they give you a lot too, and that's
Yeah, they
why
give-
it's not
yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna wear
Here's
UFC
the
because I'm
two-
gonna show it
you're
off.
not buying
yeah.
it. You're not buying it. They're
they
giving it to
give-
you.
Yeah, they give him a lot, so it's kind of like, well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
So when you guys are grocery shopping, does he just like turn to random people like, "What's that? Oh yeah, I work for them."
No,
Yeah,
we
no,
always-
that's where I
we
work.
always
UFC.
think that people probably think he's just a big UFC fan.
Oh, for sure. Oh, look at
Which
this,
you
look at
are.
this dork.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Which and when he wears his like UFC backpack to like new gyms and stuff like that, he's like, they probably just think that like I'm a big
Like,
UFC
oh,
fan.
this
like,
guy.
yeah,
Hopes
oh,
and
this guy,
dreams
yeah.
over here.
Exactly. I still feel like that because I still feel like, and I was saying it before that fight too. Like I can't legitimately consider myself a UFC fighter till I'm winning in the
Right.
UFC.
Mhm.
So it hasn't happened yet. So I'm just kind of still feel like I'm hanging out in limbo.
So you're going to be officially in the UFC when you win on May 4th.
On May
is what you're
4th, that's
saying.
the plan, huh?
Okay. Cool.
The 4th will be
So we
with
got
me.
UFC fight number 2.
Yes.
Against.
Ayman Zahabi.
Okay. For Hobby. I know that
Zahabi,
name.
Yeah. You sure you do. That's GSP's coach's little brother.
Faraz Zahabi's little
Faraz
brother.
Zahabi's little brother. Yeah.
Nice.
A lot of people I talk to don't follow MMA the way we do. I know. So I got to go with GSP's coach's little brother.
You say Faraz Zahabi and they're like,
Yeah, they're like, cool.
cool, dude.
And they give me this blank look, and I'm like,
Never mind.
yeah.
GSP's coach, no way.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah.
What do you know about him? Or do you even care?
I don't care.
Whatever.
I don't really care about like.
He punches, he kicks, he wrestles.
He punches,
whatever.
he kicks, wrestles, submits people. Yeah, it's like it's the
Whatever.
works. It's a fight. So for me, I never really look at any opponent like they're different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
He's just a dude.
yeah,
He does what you do. He
I'm
trains how you train.
expecting somebody who's got great skill sets and everywhere, and that's what I'm prepping for. So.
Right. Good. Awesome. So May 4th.
He broke his jaw in his last fight, though. So,
Yeah, that was
so
rough.
he might be a little timid to like strike, and Vince is a brawler.
Your
so.
opponent broke his jaw in the last
In
fight?
last fight, yeah, he got spinning back elbowed, third round. Did you watch that at all?
No.
He fought Ricardo Ramos. Yeah, and if I remember right, it was a pretty back and forth fight.
Mhm.
And then in the last round, Ramos throws a spinning back elbow, almost connects. Zahabi jumps out, jumps right back in, spinning back elbow again, KO.
Bam.
Yeah,
Breaks his
Rough.
jaw.
Mhm.
Yikes.
I think that was his first loss too, actually. So he's coming off his first loss.
So he's Faraz Zahabi's little brother, but clearly not invincible.
Hey,
cheers, I like
Especially in the striking game. He's coming off a knockout loss.
I think that he's a brown belt, but I think he still prefers striking.
He wants to bang.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Probably
Like-
uses
like-
jiu-jitsu defensively.
Yeah.
To get back to standing.
I'm imagining. I really haven't looked. I saw that fight, and that's
Sure.
that's kind of it. Like I said, I'm just prepping for a guy who's gonna be the best guy in all areas.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a perfect thing to prepare for. When does camp start?
Camp's kind of. I can't say officially going. 'Cause
You're like
coach isn't around.
transitioning
Yeah, I'm
into-
transitioning into it.
Warming up.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, Jesse Brock over here with SBG with you guys has opened his doors to me and let me come in there, which has been nothing but awesome. I mean, like, dude, literally everybody there has been super awesome. Everybody was always trying to help out in one way or another. The jiu-jitsu's been great there. Everybody's solid. Like, it's
For sure.
I'm loving it actually a
Good.
lot. Yeah, it's
Good,
been
man.
great. So I can't say thank you enough to all you guys.
That's
been-
good having
been
you
awesome.
around. It's been a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
for sure.
So,
Cool.
Everybody geeks out about like training with a UFC fighter.
Yeah, don't mean nothing. I haven't won yet. We've been over this.
Cam, you were all, hey, new guy, maybe one day you'll be in the
Hey,
UFC.
dude. I see that backpack. You got those hopes and dreams.
Hopes and dreams.
I turned to Jesse and fucking dork.
Dork, yeah. It's so funny.
That's good having you around, man. It's so funny, like you know, you being in the UFC, because I mean, just talking about sort of being surrounded by somebody who fights in the UFC, because years and years ago that would blow my mind. Like it was like I remember I went to Las Vegas years ago. It was probably like, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever, and I went to Extreme Couture. just to stop by. Like literally just as a fan. I was there for a different reason, but I was like, I gotta go to Extreme Couture while I'm here. And I went in, and there was like a couple front desk ladies, and they were super nice. And like I peeked through the window to the training area, and Martin Kampman and Tyson Griffin were training, right? They were just finishing up. They were coming out of the cage, like undoing their wraps, and of course me, I'm just like, what? And they're like, they look at me, and then they look where I'm looking through the window, and they're like, do you want to go like say hi and hang out? And I was like, yeah, can I do that? And they're like, yeah, like just go back there. And I was like, that's crazy. And they're like, they're just dudes. Like, we know them. They're idiots. Like, they're just dudes.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind until, like, Scott was in the UFC. And, like, Jesse was fighting in Bellator, and Vita's fighting in Bellator. And I'm just like, you're just dudes.
We're just people, dude.
You're
There's
just
nothing-
people.
Yeah, we're not like
Not to detract
unicorn.
from your success by any means. But
Well, thank you. But
it's I'm still starstruck, Vince. I'm waiting for an autograph. You did give me a
I got you.
T-shirt. I appreciate that.
For sure, I got
appreciate
you.
that. And you in Invicta. It's a pretty big
Thanks.
deal, too.
Thanks.
So.
Yeah,
It is,
hopefully
yeah.
the
Yeah, we
UFC
keep
picks
talking
up
about that,
105
like-
soon.
yeah, we keep talking about that. Like we're killing it. Like I think of us as a power couple.
Totally. MMA power couple, for sure.
yeah.
I would gladly trade the entire heavyweight roster for atomweights, females.
I'm all about that.
Yeah,
Dude, just
I
drop
want
the heavyweights.
UFC, I
What was the
know.
last good heavyweight fight?
Good heavyweight fight. Mark Hunt and Bigfoot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was a good one. Like 3 or 4 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I feel like he's missing out with the atom weights because I think that, well, for one, like we're fast.
Yes, and exciting and
Yeah,
move quick, but
and I feel like too he wouldn't be spending that much money on us.
No.
You know, so
no, it's
like
not a big investment.
Not
No,
money he's
it's not.
already spending on Invicta.
Yeah,
Like-
well, because I feel like 105ers don't give that many fights anyway. You know, because we have such a small.
It's a pretty small pool,
Yeah. So the UFC doesn't even need to pay us that much money for
Right.
for us to be like, oh yeah, we want to go. You know, like anything they offer is probably going to be better than what we're already getting paid. So I feel like it's nothing but win.
Sure.
You know, and everybody's already and he takes a lot of 105ers and brings them up to the 115 division, or he has done that.
Sure.
But he can't do that with everybody.
No,
you know, like
no.
we're not all built as. I walk around at like 115 almost. You know what I mean? Like 118 or so. So I can't fight at 115.
Well, and
you know.
do you think that the atomweight roster is going to start to fill out more to where there's going to be a demand for it?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think that, and I think that once the 105 division, if the 105 division does get picked up by the UFC, I think a lot of 115ers are going to go down.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
I could see that.
go. There you go.
Because that's what happened with the 125 division when they brought in the 125 division. A lot of 135ers came down, or the 115ers moved up.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
I think that's what's going to happen. Michelle Watterson was a 105er. I mean, she's kind of big now, but she's pretty big now, but she was a 105er. Jessica Penny was a 105er, and you know, so he can't keep doing that. So
Right.
Sohee Ham, I fought Sohee Ham in Road FC when I was 18, and she was a 105er, but the UFC picked her up
As
at
a 115er.
115er. Yeah, so
Interesting.
but she lost because she was so small. Like if you see her compared to the other girls, she's so tiny. So it's and she
Clearly
lost.
in the wrong weight
yeah,
class.
and so they let her go after that. But and she went back down to the 105 division in Road FC. So
Who else in the UFC in any weight class came from Invicta?
in any weight class,
Cyborg.
Cyborg.
Yeah, Cyborg
came
fought
from
like everywhere.
Michelle Watterson. We have Amanda Nunes.
Jessica Clark.
Jessica Clark,
Jessica
Paige
Clark.
was there.
Rose Page.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot
Ma-
of them.
Megan
I think
Anderson?
Megan Anderson.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
She scares the shit out of me.
She's
I
like
didn't realize.
long.
I didn't realize she
She's
was 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't that insane?
she's
She's
big.
6 feet tall
she
and
made
she's
Holly
thick.
Holm look tiny.
She's thick too.
Yeah.
She is an Amazon.
Yeah,
made-
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Amazon,
She scares
yeah,
the
that's what it
shit
said.
out
Her
of
arms
me.
are so long.
Yep. They're all like
Yeah.
tatted up, and her neck's like this big.
Yeah.
Damn.
She came from Invicta. A lot of them came from Invicta. I think the majority of them came. Rachel, the one that just fought Paige.
Oh, yeah.
She came from Invicta. I can list like
So clearly, it's like the only other competition.
Yeah.
Like it is 1A and 1B
Yeah.
as far as females.
yeah,
go.
pretty
Exactly.
much, yeah. I mean, and I hear that Bellator might pick up the 105 division.
Oh, they definitely are, yeah.
So I
They-
feel
for
like
sure.
the UFC should probably get on it before.
Well, they're Yeah, definitely.
Although I do think even if Bellator does pick up the 105 division and then UFC decides to do it after, I still feel like a lot of the girls are going to ditch their contracts and go over to the UFC just because.
Is it one FC that doesn't have females?
No, one FC has a lot of females.
Yeah,
they love
got
their
a lot.
females.
Do they?
Yeah.
Can't
They have a
remember
lot
what
of the lower
organization I'm
females.
thinking of.
What?
What
The
weight
road?
classes did they have for females?
I only know of the
115,
115,
125, I think.
Yeah.
Because
just those two.
they've been investing a lot in the smaller weight classes with Demetrius
Yeah.
Johnson and some of
Yes,
those other
they
people.
have,
So I
yeah.
wonder if they're going to
'Cause
be
they're
the
like
next
an
one to pick up atom
Asian-
weights.
An Asian-based promotion.
Lots of small people.
I was actually supposed to fight for them, I think, a long
Really?
time ago. Yeah, I think something happened.
Good
and I couldn't.
organization.
Yeah.
Everybody I've heard that fights for them says
And
they're phenomenal.
My dad
Yeah.
wants me to fight for them so bad.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, Risen has a 105 division. They're big on their 105
I don't
division.
count Ryzen as a real thing. They're a
They're
circus.
they
They're
have some
freaking
good fights,
circus.
but they have some big fights and they pay really well. So
Every
hey.
time they have Gabby Garcia fight, I'm just like,
Oh, I can't hear it. Oh,
"Here
man, no,
we
that's not even.
go."
Stop.
She's big. I met her at the first Invicta fight that I went
She's
at.
gigantic.
She's huge, and I was like nervous
all
to talk
muscle.
to her. Yeah, I was like nervous to talk to her, and Jesse had to be like, "Go, Shino, you
Just
can
say
do it."
hi.
Hey,
Just say hi.
Gabby, will you take a picture with her? I was like, Jesse, little Jesse.
She's
that's-
the biggest. She's so
Huge.
scary.
Like even Jesse was like, "Hey, Gabby, will you take a picture with her?"
Just staring up
Yeah.
at this giant. Was she super nice?
Yeah, she's really nice. Yeah, she was like, "Oh, good job tonight" and stuff. So she was really sweet.
It's
but,
funny, like how approachable people in such a violent sport.
Oh
are.
yeah,
Like, those are the
Cyborg.
nicest
Freaking
people.
Cyborg is the nicest
Really?
female out there. Yeah, she
That's
is
cool.
so sweet.
That's
but
cool.
everybody is like, "Oh, she's scary and stuff."
She
And I
is
was like, "Oh
scary.
yeah, I would be."
Terrifying.
I was definitely intimidated, but like.
I mean, she's not just terrifying because of the way she looks. Like, if you talk about skill set, there
Oh,
was many
she's
years where
scary.
I maintained the opinion that she was the best fighter in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, "What happens if you put her against, whoever, Jose Aldo or some of these guys?" And I'm just
They're
like,
getting hurt.
she
She's-
beats the shit out of
Yeah.
them and knocks them out.
First
Like,
of all, she's like bigger than them already. She's like a
huge.
bigger
She's a
female than
savage.
they are.
Yeah.
Huh. She's big.
Yeah,
She
man,
is-
that Cyborg Amanda Nunes fight left me took away all my. I really thought I knew the sport.
totally.
I had Cyborg win. I was like, dude, there's 0 chance.
100%.
And then I was like, cool. So I know nothing.
She beat her the same way she beat what's her name? Who Nunez fight before that? Ronda.
Rousey.
Ronda.
Yeah.
Yeah, she beat her the same way she beat Ronda. She didn't give her an opportunity to establish anything. She went straight at her with punches in the face. Which
Yeah.
who else has done that to Cyborg?
No,
Ever?
nobody.
Whoever's gone in and been like, you know what? I'm gonna strike first. They all go in and they're like, I'm fucked.
And then you saw
Yeah.
that bravado from Cyborg immediately. She's like, okay, cool, let's do it. And then paid the price. It's
Totally. And she was super humble about it afterwards.
Yeah. Oh,
I got
Oh,
beat. I
yeah.
got knocked out.
Yeah.
Like there's
happens,
there's
I'll
all
be
that
back.
you guys think I'm
Yeah.
invincible. I'm not invincible.
Yeah, and she
I get beat.
she says, I never once claimed that I was invincible.
Yep.
Yeah, which
Yep.
is the coolest thing because I was like, oh, she didn't.
Damn, I
like,
do.
Yeah.
Super.
I was like, she didn't claim that she was unbeatable.
I claimed
unbeatable
that
and-
all the
yeah,
time.
I was like,
Me too.
if anything,
100%.
everybody else claimed that, and she was the one that shut everybody down and said, I never said that. You guys did.
She's
I never
amazing.
did.
She's
She's
a
so
phenomenal
cool.
fighter.
Yeah, and just a cool person. Like,
That's
she's,
cool.
Yeah, she's
That's cool to
awesome.
hear that she's like super approachable.
I
and
think
nice.
that's why. I think that's the cool part about meeting fighters too, when they're like super humble and everything. Like they're the most dangerous people in the world. You know,
Totally.
they know how to fight you.
Totally.
But they're like some of the nicest.
I think some of that comes from the fact that
They
there's
do
an
know,
outlet
yeah.
and they do know
Like,
there's
oh,
this
yeah.
freeing confidence about it. So,
Totally.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I feel like every fighter I've met has just been super sweet.
they don't have to
and-
put on like a tough image. You
Yeah.
just watched them fight someone in a cage.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Let's just
And
be
I think
cool.
that about girls too. So it's cool to meet like female fighters who are super sweet and
Mm-hmm.
like just cool, down to earth, and they're just, oh yeah, let's go do this or let's go do that or
Right.
like whatever. And
Just
it's like,
nice
oh, okay,
people.
yeah, just like nice people, and then. And then you watch them fight, and they turn on this like whole other
Totally.
switch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you're a monster.
Well, you're a psychopath.
Yeah. It's
Exactly.
super. It's so cool. Like that's
it's-
definitely something.
It's funny because even
wanna
like a lot of like the arrogant fighters, it's just like
It's
a
just show.
persona.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the show.
Where it's like everybody's like, I met him and he was like the nicest guy in the
Yeah.
world.
I think about Kevin Lee like that.
Yeah.
Because I seen him on Rogan's podcast, and beforehand I just had his persona as my idea.
Oh, yeah.
And then on that podcast did. He just like, he was like level. He was very like introspective and like very good with knowing the bad stuff about him. And like, I was like, wow, okay, this is different. Like,
It's very honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it makes me want to be like more aware of like who I'm meeting and stuff like
Right.
that too, like just so they can walk away and be like, oh, I met Shino
She
Van
was
Hoos
so
and she
cool.
was super genuine, and you know, I want to be known like that, you know. So
Well, they're all going to listen
like,
to this podcast, and they're going to be like, "Oh, Shino's so cool and nice."
Like the sweetest little thing. Everybody, it's so funny. Everybody's always saying that about it.
Yeah, and then I have to undo all of that and be like, "You're not on the mats with her.
Hold on.
Yeah, but that's good.
It's more than that. More than that.
You don't know the other side."
but that's good.
I tell
That's
people that all the time. I'm like, she hurts me.
No, but that's what I want people to think of me as.
There was a
oh, she's super sweet, but don't get on her wrong side.
totally. There was one time where we were doing cage rounds, like in the ground and pound class, and I was going with Vita, and I stood up against the cage, and she just took my feet like straight out from under me, but was like pressuring me into the cage at the same time.
Yeah.
So my back was just like a cheese grater along the cage, and it was in the middle of the summer, and I was hanging out with some buddies, like, you know, having some drinks and throwing the football and all that shit, and I had my shirt off, and they were like, "What the fuck happened to you? This must have been in training." And I was like, "Yeah, like it was cage, like Vita took me down, like she pushed me into the cage and just like raked my body down," and they were like, "A girl did this to you?" And I was just like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Is she like huge?" And I'm like, "She's like 140 maybe, I don't know."
Yeah,
And they're just like
walks
and
around,
she
yeah.
did this to you, like, you guys, you don't get it
Yeah.
until you're on the mat.
And like Vita's a good example of like the humble, you know, like the genuine person. But,
Super
like,
sweet,
yeah,
super nice,
so
super nice.
it like, of course, that's something, and of course, you know, because me and Vita are very close, so I definitely look up to Vita, and it's, you know, she's a very good example and like a good mentor to have.
Sure.
You know, especially, and like it's funny because I've been doing the sport like way longer than she has, you know, and I've been a pro way longer than she has, but I definitely see her as like someone I want to follow.
The big sister?
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like, I mean, I'm probably, if you look at it on paper, you probably see like I'm more of the vet in the sport
Sure.
type of thing. But like, if anything, if I feel something, you know, weird about something, Vita's like the first person I go to. How do I handle this? How do I do that? You know what I mean? Like, she's definitely a good mentor to have too.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
It's
and
important to have that.
and I think that's why I was kept out of trouble in my early 20s.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
So she's definitely a good example to have in my life and like a good person to look up to.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Good to have that.
Oh yeah.
You've said a few times that you've been doing this sport basically your entire life. You started with jiu-jitsu, is that right?
Started with jiu-jitsu.
Just because they didn't have ballet where you
yeah.
went.
Isn't that crazy?
And then where did it go from there? Like, just how did things
So-
progress into?
So I was just training and stuff. It was more Japanese jiu-jitsu when I started. So, I mean, it was a lot of groundwork, what you see now, like the arm bars and, you know, like
Sure.
all that stuff. But they also put, like, the karate aspect of it in it. So, like, the katas and stuff. So it wasn't, like, completely Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But when we moved, and that was in England. So when we moved from England
You're
to
doing
Japan,
Japanese jiu-jitsu
in England, isn't it that funny? Yeah, so it was like not that, yeah. but
Okay.
but then when we moved to Japan, we found, which is funny, we found Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Japan.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Japan.
Japan.
Wait, where were you born?
Japan.
You were born in Japan.
I was born in Japan in Misawa, which is north, and then we moved to England, and then we moved to Tokyo. Which
And then
is
when you
more
moved back to
south.
Japan, how old were you?
12,
Okay.
like
so
12, about to turn 13.
and that's when you were doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and then that's when I started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu when I was like 12 or so. And then but I already kind of had an understanding of it because it was kind of the same thing,
Sure.
minus the katas,
Sure.
you know, it was so I already kind of knew how to do it. And but that's when we started competing more. So that's when I started like doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, and I started doing judo too when I was 13. So we were doing judo tournaments and stuff, and then it kind of got more serious in that sense, like, oh, jiu-jitsu's cool, you know, like we can, like this will be a cool thing to do. And then we were driving to a jiu-jitsu tournament. And we saw a flyer for Muay Thai. And so my dad like runs out of the car because we were at a red light. He runs out of the car and he grabs a flyer and comes back in, and it was a Muay Thai gym. And so we checked it out, and so we just started doing Muay Thai, and that was like around 13, 14, and then kind of just, so I was like going to jiu-jitsu practice, and then right after jiu-jitsu practice I would go to Muay Thai.
Wow.
Yeah, and then like on Tuesdays and Thursdays or something was judo days, so I would go to judo and then I would go to Muay Thai.
Wow.
Yeah, so it would be jiu-jitsu Muay Thai, and then Tuesday judo Muay Thai, Wednesday jiu-jitsu Muay Thai, and so back and forth.
So are you like geeked out to do Muay Thai, or were you apprehensive at all because it was so different?
I was kind of scared because, and I was a little embarrassed at first because, I'm a teenage girl and then they're asking me to kick a bag, so I'm like, okay, well, and you see some of the teenage girls at the gym, they're kind of embarrassed, like shy, a little shy to do it,
sure.
and like they're like, oh, like this, like, so I was definitely like that with punching and kicking, and it was definitely out of my comfort zone, but, like, it was fun once I started seeing like some of the other girls that were my age do it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, like, and they were really good at it, so I was like, they're really good, and it's kind of cool to see them just kick ass like that. So I started like not being shy and just doing it. And then so we were training all of it separately, and then we found an MMA gym that kind of does like everything. So
puts
we
it
would,
together.
yeah. So we ended up switching to that gym as far as jiu-jitsu goes, and then they got me a fight when I was like 15 as an amateur, and then like 16. It was so hard back then.
15 is your first amateur MMA fight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lucky.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so crazy.
But then it was so hard. Like, again, I went pro before Invicta was even a thing, so it was so hard to find like amateur female fighters, that were in my weight class and stuff. So they were, all the female fighters that you found were already pros.
Sure.
In a sense, they were already getting paid. So I kind of had to turn pro if I wanted to fight and compete, which I kind of wish I would have waited. But at the same time, it makes for a cool story.
Sure.
So yeah. So that's cool. But yeah. So I went pro kind of immediately after my first amateur fight, and then. Yeah, and then just now here I am.
Boom.
Yeah,
Here we are.
Yeah. So.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you've done jiu-jitsu forever, and then you sort of adopted Muay Thai along the way.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've always just considered you like a striker that does jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
instead
really?
of like
Thank
a
you.
jiu-jitsu person that does striking.
Oh, thanks. I
Because the
appreciate
ways
that.
she strikes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like I watch you strike, and I'm just like, that's supernatural.
For sure, a striker.
Like, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
It
I
just
appreciate that
seems-
because I always feel like I need to work on my striking, and like
Interesting.
I feel like I
Interesting.
always feel like whenever I fight, I've been working on my striking. This is gonna go great, and then I always take it to the ground.
That's so
yeah,
funny.
because that's my comfort zone.
Right,
is the
right,
ground.
right.
Yeah, but so
I
I always
never would've
feel
thought.
like that.
Not
But
at-
I've done
not at
Muay
all.
Thai fights and everything, and not that many. As pro Muay Thai, I went like 2-1 or something like that. But
Still experience.
yeah, but yeah, so.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and then we
always-
just kind of put everything together, and then once we started putting everything together, I kind of saw Ronda Rousey. I found Ronda Rousey after I had a couple fights in, and I was like, oh, we can make this a
shit.
thing. Yeah, I was like,
This is getting
okay, so we
serious.
can make this into a pretty big thing. And I think at the time I was like the youngest pro fighter in any sport or something, or like in MMA, I was like the
Probably.
youngest pro MMA fighter or something. But yeah, so but I found Ronda Rousey, and that's how I figured like, oh, I can turn this into my job.
For sure.
Like that's kind of cool. And I
Right.
was like, I'm good at it, so I might. Well, I was like, I'm good at it, and I might as well. I already have a head
Young,
start. I'm
yeah.
young, and then so.
So when you get the news that you're moving to Idaho, which
Yeah.
not exactly known for the past 3,000 years as like
Yeah.
a mecca of martial arts, traditionally speaking.
Yeah, which
Was there any like trepidation that you're just like, oh, damn, I hope they have a gym there?
Well, it's funny because my dad was definitely thinking that. My dad was looking for MMA gyms before he was looking for like what high school I was going to. So
And even looking for houses or apartments.
Yeah, he was like, what MMA
gyms?
gym am I going to, or are my kids going to? And I didn't even know where Idaho was. And granted, because I've never
about right.
I've never lived in the States before Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
I've always lived overseas, and I've been to I've been to the States, like, to Arizona, visit my dad's side of the family, but I've never lived here and spent more than like a month in the States. So I was excited for it, but I was like, where is Idaho? Because we were supposed to move to Vegas first.
Oh,
yeah, because my dad put in for Vegas first, and then we never got it. So the other choices were Seattle, Alaska, or Idaho. So we were hoping for Seattle, but we never got that.
Okay.
So, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to go to Alaska.
Right.
Like, that's too cold. So
Nice.
we ended up getting Idaho.
So Idaho was the consolation
Yeah, and I
prize,
was like,
third place.
And I thought that it was like the most country place. I was like, they're probably going to be wearing like cowboy boots or something. And like, there's going to be.
Look at this little Chinese girl.
Like exactly. And like, they're going to think I'm from China. And they're going to think like, there's going to be potato farms everywhere. Like, that's what I thought Idaho. I didn't think that Idaho was pretty like urban.
Right.
I guess,
right.
like
pretty
yeah.
backwoodsy.
Yeah, like
I mean, it is. You just
but
ended up in Boise.
In Boise, yeah. Which, because my dad got stationed in Mountain Home, and he was like, "Yeah, we're not going to live in Mountain Home. I'll just commute, and we can live in," because he wanted us to go to school in Boise.
Sure.
So, but once I like moved here and stuff, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Like, it's not as city as Tokyo or London or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
it's definitely not as city as Tokyo. With the skyscrapers and
Right.
stuff. Which at first I was like, where is everything? Like, where I can't find anything anywhere. But after I stayed here for a year or so, like I love it here. It's like the perfect combination of like city life and like nature.
You get just enough city where it's not crazy, but
Yeah.
there's still things to do,
Yeah.
and there's still culture.
And you know what? When I first went like to the mountains and stuff, on my drive home, it was like nighttime, and I saw like a sky full of stars, and that was my first time seeing that.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I
it was
wouldn't
like
think
my
about
first
that.
time
Yeah.
seeing like a sky full of stars, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at the sky right!" Do you remember that? I was looking out of your sunroof, and I was like. I was just the whole car ride home. I was like, because it was so cool to me. Like, that was so cool because it was always skyscrapers when I was growing up.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's the cool part. That was cool.
That
yeah.
was amazing. I didn't even think about
And then
that.
Ontario, Oregon over here.
Now, when you went to Ontario, that's probably the Idaho you were thinking
yeah,
of.
that was the Idaho
like,
I was thinking. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
okay.
Oregon. How dare you guys?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. When I
We
went
don't
to
claim
Ontario.
it.
That's so
Oregon
funny.
doesn't want to claim it either.
Right?
No, I love Ontario though. I've met some of my favorite people over there.
It's funny,
But,
is like
yeah.
compare Ontario, like just culturally, to Portland, and you'd never know they were in the same
No,
state.
not even. You
Yeah.
wouldn't even assume. It's
crazy.
It's insane.
Because it's funny though, because he has known his friends since they were in like kindergarten, whatever. Like we live with some of his oldest friends and stuff, and my oldest friend is probably Vita.
Right.
Yeah, like, because and not just like the military kid too. Like I've traveled so much that we just don't keep in contact really
Sure.
anymore. And like we're friends on Facebook, like all me and my high school friends and stuff
But
like
you're
that.
not
But we
like
don't talk.
hanging out
Yeah.
and seeking advice.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. So like, it's crazy to think that like they've seen each other grow up, and like Vita's like my my longest friend. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's so crazy, like our different lifestyles.
Totally.
And like he would show me like where he grew up and everything, and like the small town, everything's like a 5-minute walk, and I'm like for me it was like a 5-minute train ride. Like so
And you have to go past 30 million people to get there.
Exactly. And like,
And he knows everyone they pass by.
Everybody,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I'm like, excuse me, shoulder to shoulder in
Right.
Tokyo, and then he's just like, every time we like turn a corner, someone's like, hey champ, like in Ontario, everybody like, oh hey
favorite.
Vince, and like it's so crazy. It's so crazy to me. Isn't that crazy?
That is.
And then like somehow we happen to meet in Idaho.
Right. Yeah. It all meant to be.
Yeah.
Came together.
That's so funny.
That's awesome. So now the plan is heal, get back to Invicta,
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
push
5
forward.
months out. They told me 8 months. I'm 5 months out.
So
But
what % of like full training are you at right now?
I've been training every day. Yeah, I've been training every day. I've been doing like at least an hour workouts, you know, like hour sessions, just so it's not too hard on my knee. Because if it's a good class, good hard class, my knee gets tired.
I'm sure. Just the
after a while,
fatigue.
still, yeah.
I saw you rolling yesterday.
Yeah. So, and I'm rolling. I roll in Freddie's Wednesday jiu-jitsu class just a few times, and then not too hard or crazy. And then in the women's class on Saturdays, not too crazy or hard or anything. Just kind of moving and
So getting back to things.
Yeah,
really
getting
going
back to
hard.
things. Yeah, the pivoting and the like twisting of the, you know, is kind of still scary a little bit, but it's feeling great. Yeah, and the doctors I think are pretty surprised with how fast, because I mean it was a full ACL reconstruction.
It was gone.
Yeah, like, and those are usually a year, like recoveries, and they're like, oh, you're 5 months out and you're, you know, look at you. I'm like, thanks.
You're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm like, oh, thanks. You know, like
you're ahead of schedule, so you can get back to fighting other people in a cage.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
and they're
exactly
just
what
like,
it is.
Great.
So you thought of not doing this?
Yeah, they told me that
do
if
you
I
mean?
was a normal person, I probably wouldn't need the ACL surgery.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because I was walking fine, but because of
Doing
what
what
I
you
do,
do.
yeah, they were like, you probably should get it. And then they were like, you're young enough to where you can probably get away with rehabbing it, but later on you'll probably need surgery.
Sure.
And whereas if you get surgery now while you're young, you'll heal faster
better,
and
heal
feel better.
faster.
Yeah. So
Yes, heal
they were like,
stronger.
we recommend you just getting it out of the way now. And I was really contemplating for a little bit. I didn't get I busted my knee in June, and I didn't get surgery till October because I was like, I should just rehab it and see, you know. And but then I was
hoping
like,
for the best, hoping
but
for not surgery.
But I would do stupid things, like I would get on a stool to grab something from the high closet, and then I would step down and it would buckle and it would hurt so bad. And I was like, yeah, I should probably get surgery. So I was like, just do it now. I'm still young enough to where I can hop back in, you know, and stay relevant, you know, and hop
This will
back
be a
in.
distant memory.
Yeah, so
whatever.
I was like, just get my surgeries out of the way early.
Smart.
Yeah.
You should also stop getting injured.
I
You should
know. That's
stop
what my parents
getting
keep
injured
saying.
all the time.
I know. My parents are like, you don't get injured all the time, but when you do, they're expensive and they take forever.
Such a setback.
I'm like, sorry.
I'm sorry, it's such an inconvenience that I tore my ACL.
Always.
So sorry.
Yeah, but even as a kid, they'd be like, stop getting hurt. Like they would get all mad at me. and
Like, you
stuff.
did this to me?
Yeah. Like I'm like, you're making me go. So it's
I wanted to go to the dance.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to go to prom.
You're gonna have to give her a prom now, Vince. You're just gonna have to give her
got
like
it.
a belated prom. Do the dance.
My birthday's coming up.
Yeah, see, look, now,
Boom.
look what you did.
Boom.
Yeah, thanks.
Not
There you
really.
go.
It's in June.
There you go.
It's in June.
So you got a few months to plan.
You have time to plan.
We can do it at the gym. We'll turn the lights on. We'll set some music.
Well,
yeah, rose
first
petal
you, have
all
to,
suits.
first you have to ask me to prom with like
You gotta
the,
ask her.
with the
Yeah.
sign.
On a jumbotron or something. I'll do it after my fight.
Yeah.
Will you go to prom with me?
People
And then
are
you get
gonna-
arrested.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part.
It's a joke. I swear, guys. I swear.
I'll put JK on there or something.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
That's
a good idea.
That's hilarious.
I can't wait till we get you back in there, though.
I know,
Yes.
me too. I'm
Yep.
excited. I'm like hungry for it. Like, and then I'm happy for my teammates. Of course, I'm happy for their success and all the, them climbing the ranks and everything. I'm super happy for them, but like I'm kind of jealous too.
Yeah, so,
I'm
I
like,
wanna be in
man, I
there.
want to move up with you guys, and I want to progress with you guys, and so it's kind of like I get like butt hurt a little bit, but it's
That's all
okay.
right.
My time will
Just
come.
Look forward to the summer. You'll be all healed and
Oh,
training
yeah.
full percent. You'll be probably in fight camp for Invicta.
Yeah.
He'll have won his first UFC. He'll have his first UFC win under his belt, and you guys will just be. You will have gone to prom with him.
Yeah.
Your birthday. It's gonna
His
be
high
good.
school
good summer.
reunion's
Be
coming
great.
up, so.
Your high school reunion?
Oh my god, I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Huh?
can.
I'm 28, dude. I don't know
What?
if you know that? Yeah. Older than I look.
So you're really?
Uh-huh.
Damn. So
Isn't
you're
that
10-year reunion.
baby face?
Here.
I'll be
I'm gonna
damned.
freak out.
Yeah.
Can't even handle it.
I thought you were like class of 2017 or something.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Holla. No, class of 09.
I'm just
Represent.
He's not even double digits.
Wow.
That's weird.
That's amazing.
crazy?
You need 10 years.
My 10 years was
Are you
ruined by
going?
Facebook.
Was it?
Yeah,
Ruined by
nobody
Facebook.
did
Same.
face. Yeah, nobody
Same.
did our 10-year reunion. We didn't do a 10-year reunion. It was Facebook, basically, and
Well,
everybody
that's
was
the
like,
thing.
"Why are we gonna?" And somebody who wasn't so, I was part of student council, and I had a lot of people hit me up like, "Hey, what are we doing?" I was like, I don't know if you remember, but I got kicked out of student council, so figure it out." Like that's the senior class representatives, not the student body representatives, were in charge of that. So, so our class representatives were out of town, out of country for the most part, and they didn't put anything together. Well, everybody was on Facebook anyways, and we were already all friends. And so we had one person who tried to put it together, but they were trying to charge like $50.
Oh my gosh, you have to pay to go to your reunion?
Do a reunion. Yeah, they were gonna do something fancy, and we're like, no, just put together a barbecue.
Like a little barbecue.
Tell me to bring some hot dogs.
Yeah.
I'll go buy
bring
some
the
bar
booze.
ass and a bottle of
great.
cheap vodka.
So down. I hope that's what they're doing. I don't know. They posted something that they were trying to plan something, but my attention span didn't let me finish the post. So yeah, I don't know what the plan is, but it was, how long ago was that? It wasn't too long ago where I was like, yeah, we're not going to go unless I'm in the UFC.
And then so you can go back and be like, what have I done in 10 years? Oh, I fight for the UFC now.
And then when he got signed with the UFC and he lost his last fight, he was like, okay, I'm not going to go to my reunion until I win a fight in the UFC.
Well, I don't know. Well, at the time when I was thinking it, I was like, I can't go to my reunion, like, leaving as like a... Well, I feel like the only way that people remember me is from wrestling, so I got like the state title as a senior. I can't go back with no job, trying to make a fighting career work.
I'm a poor fighter trying to get to the UFC.
Exactly.
You and everyone else, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, yeah, I can't. Yeah, so I was legitimate. I was like, no, I'm not going unless I'm in the UFC. Then we got the call, and the first thing she said was, "Oh, we can go to your reunion."
Yeah.
Great, we can go now because you're in the UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if it was like.
I don't think I'm going to have one.
Where'd you go to school?
Everywhere. I went to 2 high schools. I went to Yokota High School, which is an on-base high school, and then I went to Centennial.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Did you go to your reunion?
No. Facebook has completely negated the reason for like a reunion because I'm friends with everybody I want to talk to. I know what they do for a living. I know how many kids they have. I know what they look like. I know what they've done over the past 10 years.
Cool,
I've
so
literally
maybe we don't need a
no
reunion.
reason to go,
Yeah.
just because the only people I'm going to see there that I'm not in contact with are the people I don't give a shit about saying.
That makes sense.
Literally
Yeah.
no reason to go.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Cool.
I mean, before Facebook, like, I get it. You know, we hadn't seen each other in 10 years. I have no idea what you've done. You have a family. Where'd you go to college? Whatever. But nowadays, like, I know all of that.
Yeah.
Right. It's at my fingertips.
Yeah.
And
That's true, huh?
Yeah.
But I think it would be fun because...
We only had like a class of like 80 people.
I mean, if I was in the UFC, I'd probably go.
Cheers.
Wearing my UFC backpack. Like, what's this? Where'd I get this? Oh, Dana White gave it to me because I fight there now.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm
It's
going to
my
go.
job.
I don't even know if we're going to have one, but just because my first 2 years was at one high school, so I didn't even graduate with them. And then my last 2 years, I was kind of the new girl, so
Right.
I didn't really know anybody. So
Yeah.
I
And the
was
ones
like,
that you
eh.
do know, you probably are friends with on Facebook. And
Yeah, and I mean, I don't keep in contact with them. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like I
Even
don't,
the ones I like I don't
yeah,
talk
like
to.
I don't talk to them, so I don't think I'm gonna go. Well, and I graduated in 15, but I was supposed to graduate in 13.
Held back.
Do you remember that? Yeah. So do you
Back
remember?
up.
So I got held back like 2 years because my transcripts never transferred
From overseas.
from Japanese school to
yeah.
American school, which is weird, right? Because I went to a Japanese school and they held me back. So I did freshman and sophomore year in Japanese school, and then I was transferred to American school for my
As a
junior year.
freshman?
There's some maybe reading and math issues we're not identifying.
For my
here.
junior and senior year, I transferred, but they made me start over, and I was like,
Wait a second.
I was like,
I did this already.
shouldn't I be bumped up a couple years because
think.
I went to a Japanese school? Because I did the algebra, geometry, algebra 2 all in middle school.
But you don't
in
want to be that
Japanese middle school.
stereotype of like the advanced Asian kid. Come on, you would have never made friends.
Yeah, but look at me. No, I'm kidding.
She's still a stereotype. She came over with like multiple martial arts.
True.
That's true.
You're Asian, you must do martial arts. I do. As a matter of fact.
I grew up with movies about you in the 90s.
And then I was a bookkeeper for a little bit. I did bookkeeping as a job for a little bit, so I played with numbers. So I was pretty much the stereotype.
Wow. Wow.
And
nice.
I'm not a good driver.
Terrible.
Yeah, so I fit that stereotype. It's only half of me, but I fit it great.
So funny.
But yeah, so in Yokota, I was friends with like a lot of my class of 13 friends, but I never got to graduate with them. And then at Centennial, I was like a lot older than everybody because I got held back technically. So, so it was just kind of.
That's weird.
It was so I never know if I should consider
what class
myself.
are you even
Yeah,
really
like I
supposed
never
to go
really
to?
I don't know what to consider myself. I graduated in 15, but it's not because I was like behind or anything.
Right.
Like my transcripts just didn't transfer, so none of my scores transferred. So
Weird.
yeah, so I was like, I'm supposed to be 13, but technically I just got out of high school, like not too long ago.
Literally a few years. You're not even up to your 5-year anniversary.
Yeah, exactly.
Much less anything else.
So that's funny.
I graduated in 2002. You guys make me feel old.
In 2002?
Yeah.
Dude, I was
crazy.
09. That's only 7 years.
I'm closer to like.
Wow, that's only 7
true.
years.
Don't look at me like that.
Oh, okay.
True. That's only 7 years. Yeah.
15 or 13.
That's crazy.
Man, I'm hoping we do something at like one of the local restaurants over there, like just if we can all meet up at like Tacos Mi Ranchito over there or something, just because that's like there's a couple go-to spots that are only in Ontario that are amazing.
Yeah,
like, it's Burger West and Tacos Mi Ranchito.
What's I don't know if it's still there, the Chinese food place.
Far East.
Dude,
I used to work there.
Are you serious?
Hell yeah, I used to
Oh
wait
my
tables
God.
and bus tables.
Dude,
over
that
there.
place is so good.
Oh, it was amazing.
I
It's
love
my favorite.
that place.
And they fed me after every shift too, so I was like, I was living the life,
Hook it up.
dude.
Hook it up.
That is so funny.
It's so
and I'm over
awesome.
here, my teenage job, my high school job was fighting people. That's
Way cooler than I am.
You're from Japan.
yeah, yeah.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, you've been recording forever, and I appreciate you guys hanging out and
Thanks for
It was
having
awesome.
us.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
this
awesome.
was fun.
and stuff. I know it was mainly about her. We just wanted to check.
I'm
in
good
on
with that.
you
That's my life. It's
There you
mainly
go.
about her anyway.
You're just here to support her.
Exactly.
Yeah, she said like 5 things when you were here, so it's fair.
yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
But we're
Yeah.
we're happy for you. We're glad that you're in the UFC. You're got a fight under
Thank
your
you,
belt.
thank
You're
you.
gonna
Yeah.
go win on May 4th.
For sure.
Where at?
That's in Canada, so I get to travel out of the States again.
Wait. So they're trying to hometown you. Is what you're
Well, yeah,
saying.
but
Twice.
But
Okay.
what they don't know,
You're
though,
gonna pull off the upset.
what they don't know is we're fighting in Ontario, Canada.
Oh,
From Ontario,
nice. Okay. Smart.
this,
Smart. Okay.
No, it's okay
good.
though. If I gotta play the heel as the outside guy, I'm fine with that though.
Who cares?
So, yeah,
it's just a fight.
yeah.
Who gives a shit?
We're just gonna fight, and that's one thing. Like taken from the last couple, like last year was the first time I've ever lost 2 fights in 1 year, and it's like super frustrating. I think Shino thinks it's like me being hard on myself, like trying to pick things apart. But everything's like in retrospect, like it's attitude in there, it's mindset in there, it's certain skill sets in there. There's a lot of things. So it's
For
like
sure.
so. When I'm looking at everything and trying to address it and trying to fix it, it's not necessarily. It might be me being hard on myself, but in a way that it's going to be beneficial towards the future. So
For sure.
That's where I'm at. So
Just good critical coaching.
yes, exactly. So and I feel like I'm very critical. Like I like to be technically proficient in all areas. So that's where I'm at, and that's exactly what my plan is to show on the 4th.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
We're excited for you.
I'm so stoked.
We're happy for
and
you.
I can't thank you guys and everybody over at SPG enough. Freddie, Ben, Almir, like all those dude. Everybody's been super helpful. Everybody just wants to work and like help me win because I
Yeah.
feel like I'm even though I'm not local Boise
Right.
fighter technically, I did all my fighting in Boise, so
Right.
I'm still local in a sense, and everybody's still supporting. So if I win, we all win.
Right,
And
for
I
sure.
think that's the approach. So I just thanks to everybody.
Well, at the end of the day, it's like it's interesting how like the Front Street Fight sort of community is really that. Like unless you're fighting
100%.
each other, it really is like one community.
But even when you
know?
fight each other, at the end.
It's kind of just for that fight.
Yeah, it's really just for
after
the
that, it's
fight.
like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Cool.
because literally everybody I fought. Well, I've fought a lot of SPG guys, but like literally everybody I fought, like it's been a big high five and good luck in the future for both of us. So
and now
it's awesome.
you come over to the gym and like any animosity?
No, none.
They're there to
None
support
at all.
you. They
Yeah,
want to help you.
which is super cool. So
wanna
I get
you there.
so big thanks to Jesse Brock for even allowing me in, because for whatever reason in my mind it was just like I was a part of the rival team.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's been awesome, and just thanks. I'm super grateful.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. Shino, we're excited for you to heal and not get injured again.
Thanks.
Get back to
Me
Invicta.
too. Thank
Fight.
you.
And then when UFC adopts the 105 weight class,
thanks.
you'll be in there getting way more terrible messages from people.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to that.
So excited.
Well, thanks for hanging out. You guys are awesome.
Thanks,
We're
Cameron.
pumped to have you.
Thanks for having us.
Boom.
Peace out.